What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 57. I am your co-host, Jason, and joining next to me, as always, as usual, is Will over here. What's up?
Never going to change. It's always going to be me, right? You don't have another podcast host in mind, do you?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Will, because announcing now we have Will GBT AI. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh. When we start introducing AI into the JP, like that could potentially just make things a lot easier for us.
I mean, I'll just be honest. I hopefully it will never change, right? Maybe we might add a couple of guests or maybe another co-host, but I hope at the very least minimum is you and me always.
In terms of like the hosting side, like AI is not going to really like do much to that. But I actually have a friend who does like audio engineering on the side, and basically introduced me to a bunch of like AI tools to help like improve audio quality and actually make things a lot faster to do. So
yeah, shout out to Audacity for kind of tricking us slightly, but you're still a good program though.
Yeah, we just didn't think that what we were doing was actually like the wrong thing.
It wasn't wrong thing. It was just like misadvertised in a way, right? Like we thought it was a certain bit rate, and it turns out that it wasn't. Right? That was the story.
In terms of like actually like upscaling audio quality, that actually is not possible. Like whatever is recorded and then like exported as a specific file, like the bit rate remains the same no matter like whether you say, oh, I want to export it as this bit rate or that bit rate. It's like irrespective of whatever bitrate you want, it's all pertained to the wave, the file type that you export it as. So like as a wave file, as an MP3, M4A,
or lossless, right?
Lossless,
that's generally the most high quality and the most amount of storage in terms of audio file.
Speaking of which, storage is like the really fucking annoying part because damn, like one audio file for our recordings is already big enough, but then we start doing
plus
lossless.
The GarageBand plus lawless, right?
Yeah, we're burning through hard drives. We need to build a NAS. Is what we need. We need like an actual like network attached storage unit.
But just like how we need to figure all that stuff out, you don't need to figure anything out other than to listen in on our episode. This time around, we are talking about Gotta Watch Them All yet again, which is the best every time.
Gotta Watch Them All Part 7.
Part 7, that's correct. Diamond is guns. Diamond fight guns.
There's a lot of shit that goes on in Part 4 of
Guns
Jojo.
are unbreakable.
For sure. Yeah, guns are definitely unbreakable, especially in the world of Jojo.
Thus, we spoke about it. Okay, fuck it. Okay.
Yeah, thus spoke Kishibe Rohan. For the longest time, I always thought it was Rohan Kishibe. No, it's the other way around. And then we're also going to be talking about the second season of Sword Art Online.
Hence the guns.
Yeah, loads of guns.
But let's not talk about that just yet, because Will and I have actually watched a bit of stuff on the side, and we decided that we want to talk about it ever so slightly. So we're just kind of going to go through the gauntlet run through of some of the seasonals that are currently airing in spring 2023, and I have some from winter and fall. Oh, actually, both of them are from winter. None of them are from fall. I have a lot of on-hold shit, just like Will and I have discussed in a recent BP, but hey, we got it.
Yeah.
For some of it. We finished some of it. Some of it was due to release schedules. Some of it wasn't. So, hey, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Do you want to go first? I think that I've actually got a lot to go through in terms of my side.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is the ones that I talk about, I think you did not finish yet. But the ones that you're up to current, for example, the ones with the recent seasonals, we can just go back and forth. So, I finished 2 shows recently for the winter 2023 seasonal. It's Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill and Farming Life in Another World. Now,
who would have thought that we'd be talking about 2 isekais, even though we keep saying there's way too many isekais every season?
Now, if you also were to pay attention to these 2 titles, you would have been like, Jason, aren't those about food? Aren't those a bit more slice of life, more chilled, more iyashike, right?
Yeah, one would be like deemed like a gourmet isekai. The other one being more iyashike isekai.
Harem, yeah.
Yeah, isekai, yeah. Harem isekai for sure, right?
Well, what else is new? The tag for isekai plus harem
half the times there's like a harem in an isekai anyway.
Absolutely. So, long story short, both of these shows I gave an 8 out of 10. you might be surprised and might think like, why not give it a 7 as opposed to an 8? I think it's just very well done.
It hits the right spot of comfiness.
Exactly.
For you, yeah?
And if you like gourmet, they really focus on the food, especially with campfire cooking. Farming life, on the other hand, is just nice to see Stardew Valley in action, so to speak. Harvest Moon the fuck up. And the empire of the farm just grows and grows and grows. And it is just funny how the main character in A Farming Life in Another World is just so massively overpowered, filled his village or farm land with like all these really OP characters and creatures, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like cut this tree and just make a hut.
Yeah, don't forget about the crops, dude. All the stuff that he grows as well. Like he takes a lot of care in terms of like making sure he's got a consistent farm life going on.
I will say one thing, not necessarily a spoiler, but Will, when you have enough crops, or what would you do once you have too much, a surplus? What would you do next?
Sell it off.
Yeah. And also when you have a lot of people concentrated in one place that are so overpowered, what do your neighbors usually think?
What I mean,
make diplomatic relations, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Or you decide, you know what, like I've had it with these uppity neighbors, I'm going to pillage them.
Right. But then this is not action fantasy. This is in
it's not Overlord.
So yeah, it's not Overlord. That's actually a very good shout out. So it's just really nice, comfy, and the characters are all fine. The harm is actually not that big of a deal in Farming Life in Another World. In Campfire Cooking, I watched it on Hong Kong Netflix. It's online all in its entirety. It's just nice.
Yeah, Netflix is starting to catch up with more like current anime series, which is nice. I think they need that, especially since they're still losing subscribers. This all came down with the whole like password sharing thing, account sharing thing.
So, I mean, I think there is a slight bit of news we're not going to really report on, other than they're going to expand the password sharing thing.
Yeah, I think that, you know, in terms of like the quality of shows on the platform now, I'm also talking about like the live action stuff too. It's gotten better, but has it like stymied the sort of like drain of subscribers on the platform? Not quite, because in the end it's like, yeah, you got one great show, but is it really enough for me to keep my subscription? Some are not feeling that way.
At least from the anime front, they have a couple of bangers. They have Blue Lock, for better or for worse. It's popular, right?
They're trying to be current with some of the seasonals now. So they got like Demon Slayer. They've also got stuff from like the winter. So they've got like Mob Psycho, Vinland Saga. I believe they've also, Blue Lock, you said.
They have Oshi no Ko currently. They have Hell's Paradise currently, at least in the Hong Kong Netflix is concerned. And then they also have, I think, Muroko-chan when that first aired. Yep. Then they have Last Villainous Isekai, or Last Boss Isekai, I think it's called. And then there is also finally, I'm trying to think, More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers or something.
That's another one they have.
Yeah, so these are all shows that are pretty decent, a huge variety. It's just good. So I'm pretty happy. They have Mashal. Right, we forgot about that.
Ranking of Kings, the new one, Dr. Stone, To Your Eternity. Of course, you know, the JoJo stuff. They're trying to add more One Piece back on there as well, because I don't think they have Naruto on the platform anymore.
I think they took it off. Yeah, so at least from the anime front, they seem to be making not like a lot of quantity, but they're focusing a little bit more on quality and also getting simulcast, which we have mentioned previously in other BPs. So
I think the most important, especially, is like when there's more shows coming up now, you want to stay current, and that's something that is good to see on Netflix. I wouldn't say they're doing amazingly, but at least they're doing something.
Yeah, and we can't speak for the other regions because we just use the Hong Kong Netflix, but you also want to be current, guys, and we are now going to go into what Will and I have been keeping up to current with the spring 2023 seasonals. So what you got, Will?
So I'm pretty much up to date with Hell's Paradise, up to date with Yamada-kun, level 999. Also, of course, Cafe Terrace and its goddesses. That one I quite like. What else I've got? Oh, my Clueless First Friend. Skip and Loafer, that's another one. Oshinoko, Heavenly Delusion. What else did I watch? Dead Mountain Death Play. Fuck, that one's really good.
So how about let's talk about some of these shows. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, Oshi no Ko. I think as predicted, Will and I, accurately so, knows, because we read the manga, that there's no doubt that the first episode, 90-minute episode, is going to turn a lot of heads and catch a lot of attention and hype. And I do think it's a very, very well done first episode. But as you might expect, it is hard to keep up that kind of hype momentum and pace. And it slows down quite a bit for episode 2 and 3. And the scores also slow down and dip a bit.
Even like when we talk about like the highest rated anime before, which at the time was Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, it still only held a 9.21. Which then when you saw Oshi no Ko being a 9.32, you're like, this is fucking like record breaking. Now though, I think parity has kind of been restored. Oshi no Ko is now sitting at a 9.11, just 0.01 above Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is then, kind of, there are 3 series that are sharing the third spot on the podium, which is a Dozen-Year Blood War for Bleach, the final season, I forgot which part it was, though, for Attack on Titan, as well as good old Steins Gate.
I'm guessing it's the first, section of final season.
The final chapters, actually. Yeah, the final chapters of the final season, which is interesting. Because
the final chapter, as in the one episode special or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the one. It's a 2-episode special. Which is like whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so that one has been actually really, really high up.
I feel bad because I haven't. The anime has caught up to the manga that I'm at. Obviously, the manga is finished already.
And I finished the manga, so I haven't been as inclined to watch and finish up the anime itself, even though I did watch
just like Chainsaw Man, right?
The parts of the final season. Yeah,
same thing. So
I was mainly there though for the OP, because the opening music is fucking great.
But the new Sim song is
It's okay. It's okay.
All right. Shout outs though to the Oshi no Ko OP, because that one has Spotify has been saying hey, this song is doing gangbusters or something. There was a news story about that. So
it
is a very nice song. But Oshi no Ko, though, they kept up the quality still. It is just really nice to see a good show, and it's really good to get a huge W in terms of the anime industry in general. People are going to pay attention to Oshi no Ko.
What I will say as well is, as Jason mentioned, of course, the first episode, or the first premiere, since it wasn't an episode, it was a movie. Yes, it was really, really good, but don't let the subsequent episodes kind of drag you down, even though they're not going to be as fucking eye-watering amazing. It's still going to be a great series to watch.
I still think it's going to be a 9 in my book now.
It will be a 9, if not at least an 8.9 something. It will not drop down that much lower.
I meant
where it is right now,
I read my personal score.
Yeah, even then, I think it's your score will probably match up with what generally everyone else thinks, and that is a fantastic series.
Yeah, I don't think it will even go lower than a 9, in terms of the average score.
Yeah, maybe an 8.99.
Somewhere there.
Like a Bocchi the Rock kind of thing. But I think where it is right now,
Bocchi the Rock dropped?
It's below a 9.
Damn.
Yeah, I think Oshi no Ko though, where it is right now, if it stays there, fair game. Hell's Paradise though, I think that was the next one you wanted to talk about.
Yes,
right?
That is correct.
So I'm also up to current on that one, and I think basically
4 episodes.
4 episodes.
Yeah.
So I basically read up to the end of episode 2 in terms of manga length.
Oh, okay.
Right. So legitimately, I'm not going to say anything because it's the second episode. But yeah, the first 2 episodes, when we were talking about it during our premiere episode, that was basically where I had started. I had read up to in the manga, and then since then 2 more episodes have dropped. It's fucking great. I thought that the first 2 episodes were bloody enough. No.
No.
It's fucking horrifying, the amount of blood and gore there is.
But it's beautiful, actually. So I also have read, I've read the manga up to probably likely episode 6 or 7. So everything I've seen, I've known in terms of the plot points, but to see it animated in such a beautiful fashion, I mean, Mappa, come on.
You're getting to the point now where you're going to be seeing technically quote unquote new stuff because you haven't read it in the manga yet, right?
Yeah.
So that's for me, the last 2 episodes, fucking eye-opening, fucking great.
And at this point, just like Attack on Titan, I don't want to finish the manga because the manga is finished for Hell's Paradise, but I just want to see it maybe after the first season, right? And then maybe when we wait for season 2 or season 1 part 2 or whatever you want to call it, then maybe I'll finish or read more in the manga.
Generally, for me, it's like I would gravitate towards maybe finishing the manga if the manga was completed.
It is.
But is it?
13 volumes all
Right.
completed.
All right. Well, then, I guess, like you then, I'll just finish out the first season and then see if I'm going to pick up the manga. Like the rest of the manga, because it's free.
Another awesome rise in popularity and rank is Skip and Loafer. So, Will, you and I knew that once it gets to a certain point in the manga and now the anime, when they focus on the characters, when they get the cast of characters, and they really go into what really is the Skip and Loafer stuff, it is so refreshing to see, especially episode 3 onwards. They now focus on the characters, and it's just great.
Yeah, it's nice seeing them all together, like sitting in a cafe or in a study hall and whatnot. And I think that was like one of the, I guess not so much concerns, but the part of interests that you had going into Skip and Loafer, which was how are they going to do the sound design, which is like the music, the voice acting, and all that. Because once you see all the characters in manga form, you're kind of like, okay, I know the vibe, kinda, but like to them have also add 1 like color, 2 sound, and 3 voices to them, that then you have the complete package. And I think so far it's holding up very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Like you said, I already know what happens for the most part, but it's just nice to see. It's very nice to see that it actually all comes together like perfectly.
And on my anime list, it went from like a 7.8 something in the beginning to now past an 8 to now like an 8.14 or something, and 8.11. I think I checked the score earlier. It's 8.1 something. So it is really nice to see that people acknowledge Skip and Loafer, and it is fantastic. It is going to be a great time, chill time, but also a very reflective time. I think any of those characters, I wouldn't say any of those character moments are emotional or like tear jerking, but they're just like, it makes you feel nice. You know what I mean? Like,
and they're also like they're very relatable too.
Extremely
they're
relatable.
not exactly characters that are like, oh, this is like hardcore student council type profile. This is the hardcore like weeb profile. This is the one that only just studies, has no friends. Like, yeah, there are going to be like kind of those archetypes, but they don't like make it to the extreme, to the point where it's just like you're literally just watching a caricature.
Yeah, and Skip and Loafer excels in relatability, I think. It's just, you don't have to...
8.17.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
It's great. Death Mount Deathplay, I think, is probably one of the more surprising seasonals this season, because Will and I just totally did not care before we watched it.
I think it's just like interesting artwork, but also we were kind of like, I think it's Geek Toys that made it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so we're just like, I don't know. It didn't do very well last year, but, you know, I think it just proved to us, like, hey, you know what? Like, don't judge us for what you've already seen so far.
Just like in Jojo Part 4 contains a very well done yandere that is going to be on my top 10 list of yanderes. It has shifted now, my yandere list. I think Death Mount Deathplay also contains probably one of the best deranged yanderes.
I'm going to give you a chance to properly say the name of the anime series as well.
Dead Mount Deathplay.
There you go.
Thank you. This is going to be in the GAP Finale Awards, I presume.
Yeah, but not, you know, we're still a couple episodes away from that. Dude, still quite bloody. There's some like you said, some real peak yandere psycho moments in Dead Mount Deathplay. I don't think there's really much else to say. I think it's just because of the fact that it's like we've barely seen the craziness and chaos that happens.
And
in the
I think at the end of episode 3, have you watched it?
Yeah.
The cliffhanger, I guess, ending. If I don't think it's a cliffhanger, but the ending really sets into motion probably what's about to ensue.
I think with this kind of series as well, though, because of how chaotic it is, just as likely as it is to be like, wow, this was like the biggest surprise of the season. I'm very happy to have watched it. It could also very easily just go off the rails. I feel that like you're literally just 1 or 2 mistakes away from just veering off from the chaoticness of this, and it just being like, well, now it's just being bloody and gory for no particular reason. It has the potential to be a very good series, but it can also just crumble under like it just being a little too insane, a little too out there.
They already announced a part 2, so the
Yeah.
second split cur is going to show up whether you like it or we like it or not, and thankfully, at least for the time being, we like it. So, all good there. Will, for Dr. Stone and Demon Slayer, do you have anything else to add from your seasonal review? Or
Demon Slayer is still slaying demons,
and Dr. Stone is still
stoning doctors. Yeah.
Jesus fucking
No. But what I will say about Dr. Stone is that like it's just good to see it back on the air, and then like them being able to sort of discover and invent new technologies. But things are getting very interesting now after episode 4. So hold on to your butts. Dr. Stone is about to really venture into the new world.
So what you're saying is Dr. Stone is rock solid, right?
Not quite. Just because of the fact that turning points are happening soon. So you're going to have to see whether this guy's a solid dude or not.
Next on our list of seasonal updates is also probably tangentially related to what I like to call the baka of the month. So, Heavenly Delusions, I have not watched the latest 2 episodes. I've watched until the end of episode 2. So, I only watched the end of episode 1 during our seasonal review, and there was some quote-unquote controversial things that happened at episode 2. I watched episode 2, and I believe that the baka of the month goes to all the noise that surrounds this quote-unquote controversy at the end of episode 2.
Yeah. We can't really say just because it actually is a spoiler.
It is
and they really go into the next episodes too. So I'm current on that. So I watched episodes 3 and 4 as well. If anybody took part in any of that noise regarding, what you quote unquote didn't like about the end of episode 2, shut up.
Yeah,
I think y'all are just really stretching things and just kind of going for something that really doesn't matter to you. Like I think like just watch it for what it is and enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then just turn off and watch something else.
So at the end of episode 2's airing, I contacted a mutual friend of the podcast, and she told me point blank that the story point is faithful to the adaptation. So at that point, my logic is, well, if it's some random bullshit,
they're not doing it to pander.
Exactly. So then it is as intended. Also, shut the fuck up, guys.
Yeah.
With the noise. Like, if you don't like it, you have every right to not watch it.
I did tell you not to read the mouth discussion boards.
Yeah, you have every right to not watch it. In many ways, you also have the right to say, your piece. But at the same time, that also means that everyone else has the right to voice their opinions in return. And guys, just why? It's 2023. Okay. Cheat Skill Isekai, have you kept up with it?
I actually have. Yeah.
I haven't. I watched until
same shit.
Okay.
Basically, dude, bosses it at school, but he's still a very humble kid. Just because he knows it's like, oh, I have this newfound ability and newfound body, but like I'm not going to be using it.
I'm a heart of gold,
yeah,
son.
I still got beautiful ass eyes,
Do you think it's better than Dead Mount?
Oh, hell no.
So you still...
Dead Mount Deathplay is still like... I'm riding on this one being possibly the most fun anime series to watch this season.
So Cheat Skill Isekai, you would say, is more trashy guilty pleasure, whereas Dead Mount is not only guilty pleasure but also just good.
I wouldn't say trashy or guilty pleasure. I mean, like, okay, like if we're attaching like the guilty pleasure part to the whole isekai genre, then no.
Okay, yeah, I take that back. That's
I think that's a little bit too much of a dig.
Because you can say Campfire is kind of a guilty pleasure in a way.
Yeah, I think because the whole thing is like, yes, it is an isekai, but at the same time, like, that we shouldn't just let that be the point of focus. I think the fact that the character is pretty well written compared to the usual standard like cookie cutter isekai protagonist where like I'm super OP, so I'm going to use everything I can to be continue to be the most OP person. Whereas this one's just like, yeah, I'm OP as fuck, but like, what did I do to deserve this? And that's kind of like the tribulations that he goes through, where it's like, everybody likes me now, but I didn't do anything to deserve this. I'm just gonna live my life the way I want it, and hopefully everyone kind of just chills out. Fortunately, because he's so OP, people still gravitate towards him
because he raises eyebrows, like his attention.
And, just like how he's doing, rock solid shit while staying humble in the real world, he's also doing the same shit but staying humble in the fantasy world. So it's just, if you liked him doing the nice guy shit on one side, you can see him do it a second time in the fantasy side.
Is it still just as pretty?
Oh, yeah, it still looks great.
Like, the image is sharp as fuck, like, awesome.
I think, like, of course, the animation style, it's still, like, it's not as smooth as I want it to be, but again, I don't think it really is the focus. So I'm not going to dock them points on that. I think it's still, like, a solid, like, it's a 7 for sure. It's still a good anime. Whether or not you like the theme and the characters, whether that gives you enough incentive to maybe bump it up to an 8 or even to start watching it in the first place, that's very much up to you. I'm fine to continue watching it, but I know that there is still stuff that like I would prefer to watch, like Skip and Loafer or Deadman Deathplay or Heavenly Delusion. But I don't think that there's much of an issue watching Cheat Skill Isekai.
Right. It's just like not on your like top of your rotation.
This is one of the series where you could, be cooking or sewing or doing homework whilst you have this playing in the background.
Sewing?
Yeah. I mean, don't you sew in your free time?
I sew up nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't sew really generally.
No.
I do mash.
It's a very useful skill.
I do mash the play button a lot, especially when it comes to watching anime, and the next one is Mashal, Magic and Muscle.
I still like it a lot. I mean, it also just helps the fact that like it's a goofy, funny like power fantasy action anime, and you and I have already read quite a lot of it. You read more than I have, but I think like even like where I am, I've probably read enough for like 2 curs, maybe 3 curs worth of anime. I don't know. I think the gripe I still have, which I think you will still agree, the animation like smoothness and quality is still not quite there.
So, first thing is, and I don't know if you remember, they announced a full anime adaptation. So there are like even more so than Shield Hero season 2 and 3 announcement. They're going all the way and committing to finishing it like Fruits Basket remake type style. So
I mean, I think this is like one of the few wins recently that the Jump Plus platform has had, right? I think that like they kind of need this, so it's not surprising they're going to double down. Risky still, but I think it's kind of paying off. I mean, like despite what I say about the animation quality and all that, I think it's still a pretty good anime to watch.
I really like it a lot. Is it a 9? No. Is it an 8? 100%. I think it's like 8.5 territory, but not yet because the action scenes have not really ramped up yet. Now it's just more slapstick than
in terms
action.
In terms of the stuff that we've read in the manga, there are certain arcs that potentially could be a 9.
It's insane.
We're just definitely not there. I don't think we're going to be close to getting there like by the end of this season.
But I would say a lot of our, I wouldn't say criticisms, but comments of the one character that sees what actually goes on in terms of how Mashal overcomes a certain obstacle is now very much present. So that's good. And they play it out in such a way that is very accurate to the adaptation and also very accurate to what you would expect out of some sort of slapstick. Oh, I just use brute strength to bash through this assignment or obstacle. So
yeah, I think that like episode 3 onwards, it was good to see that like now they're like 99 to 100% like faithful to the manga now.
It's just going to be interesting because the mangaka's art and skills actually you can tell like later on in the manga improves significantly. So I don't know if the current kind of less high budget feel is not present due to that, or it's they're kind of a marathon rather than a sprint. But I do agree that when you look at A1, it falls short slightly. although they do have a lot of Sawano type music.
Yeah, I think in the end though, it's like it's still a good package. I have no problem in recommending Mashal to people.
Oh,
at
and
all.
just to be clear, Sawano didn't score Mashal, but they have some moments
Sawano type
feels. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend Mashal. Yamada-kun level 999.
It's okay. It's there.
It's just good.
I think like my feeling for it is kind of the same as like watching Cheat Skill Isekai. Like if you like the character, I think the characters are important for these kinds of shows.
I do not like a new female character that was introduced though.
Oh, the Tsundere?
Yeah, no,
she's not a Tsundere. She's just a brat.
I just really don't like her. Cause
what, Lolicon?
No, it's not that. It's more like the things that she does at the end of the latest episode, that I just think it's just like, okay, you're a brat, but it's just very shitty thing to do.
Oh, she's a kid.
I know.
You know, kids do shitty things sometimes.
But kids can also do shitty things that are wrong.
Right, and that's, why there's such series as like My Clueless First Friend.
Yeah.
I think it's like... It's hard to like for me. I don't mind that all that much, having like a shitty character in this, just because like everyone else seems to be a relatively likable character.
You're talking about 999, right?
I'm still talking about 999.
Yeah.
I think like overall though, it's just like whether you vibe with the theme, whether you care about someone finding love, or at least recovering from broken love through video games, and trying to reconnect with people, just trying to connect with IRL people. That's just generally what loving Yamada-kun at level 999 is.
I do think they balance a good amount of MMO speak and also making it accessible such that if you've never played an MMO, you can easily understand or even relate to some of these things, such as maybe a certain character's reveal. Let's just say it's very common in MMOs. I also do what was kind of revealed when everyone meets everyone, let's just say.
Yeah.
So there you go. Cafe Terrace. So I read the manga. How is it on the animation front? Other than the first episode, which I saw as well.
It's fun. It's good. I mean, now they're starting to get into some more wholesome elements, and I don't know what else to say other than the fact that it's still 5 cute girls with fat titties running a cafe with their boss.
How is the harem censorship?
It's there.
I
mean, you don't see nips.
Yeah. It's not High School DxD, right?
They don't go through that kind of censorship now. I mean, like it's not like, oh, it's for a fact what you're looking at. They just have like random like rays of light or a logo blocking the
or
certain
steam.
thing. Yeah. No, but I mean, even then, you don't really need that kind of censorship. It's still very lewd and etchy. Like that's not going to be any like different.
But is it
whether
forced though? You think because I know what happens, but it
well, it's an etchy, right? So it's not like it's supposed forced or not. I think that's the point of the series. To have those kind of moments.
I still think Cafe Terrace is a very well done manga, so it's no surprise to me that the anime is just as good or like a very good adaptation period. So, hey, if you can't wait for Quintessential Quintuplets or the Amagi's that Shrine one that they just announced, some TV anime.
I will say though that the score has dropped a bit for Cafe Terrace. It's now below a 7, which fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
It is what it is, right?
I think like a lot of times like ecchi harems, like they kind of balance out between like a 6 and 7. Like once you start getting down to like the lower, like if you're a 6.5 and you're an ecchi harem, I'd say that's actually a decent score. Yeah. If it's any lower, then you're like, okay, this is just forced trash now.
Right, because there's a lot of people that when they hear harem, they're just like, oh, fuck, another one of these.
Immediately default to saying, like, you know what? Like, I'm just not going to bother with this. It's just going to be a same old garbage.
Oh, it's going to be mid as fuck. Okay, so what do they do this time? Oh, wow. That is so
people just don't like the fact
revolutionary.
that it's like, oh, it's etchy, so it's just big anime titties, right? So, like, why do I bother watching this?
I mean, yes, they're there, but there's also, like, other stuff that they add, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those. What about King's Ranking and Clueless First Friend? Which one do you want to talk about first?
Clueless First Friend. It's still it's so cute. it's really. I'm actually kind of annoyed that the score for it isn't a little bit higher. I think at the moment it's a 7.4, 7.45. Which okay, that respect, it's still a very good score.
Very good score.
I just feel it's a little bit. It should be a little bit higher, maybe a 7.6. 7.7, something like that. And I think it's
but
just
not like Takagi-san level, right?
Well, I haven't read or watched Takagi, but
well,
I know
Takagi's
it's like very highly acclaimed. It's like low to mid 8s.
Yeah.
So I think that this is definitely worth the watch. It's very wholesome, very friendly, very cute. I think that maybe people just are kind of turned off from like the sort of romantic subtext that there is, just because they're young kids. But at the same time, it's like you're probably reading a bit too far into it. And even then, it's just like you're just watching kids sort of explore what it's like to grow up, finding new friends and being able to share experiences with each other, and actually finding that, you know what, like there's a lot of care and goodness in this world. I'm very happy where I am. So that's kind of the angle I'm going for. If you do want to sort of add more of like a degenerate layer onto it, that's on you. I don't see any of that.
Yeah. One of the things I think Clueless First Friend, at least the first episode, does very well is talking about the covering the topic of bullying. Now, I suspect that the bullying decreases as the female MC's like caricature, like she opens up, she makes new friends. I don't know. Again, I have not watched more, but I presume that the bullying has calmed down slightly, right? Or has it still persisted?
There's less verbal bullying, but I think that in terms of the effects of bullying, that becomes a little bit more the focus.
Oh, that's good, because I was about to argue that when you use bullying as a shtick, right? I'm not saying that, Clueless First Friend did any disrespect towards the topic of bullying, but I think the association that a lot of people can relate to in terms of the thematic elements of bullying is something that even I personally hold very dear and strongly about. So that I'm really fortunate to hear that they focus on that.
Because it's like, I just got bullied. Oh, where's the bully? Let me go deal with him right now. And then like they deal with it, and all of a sudden they're all like, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Let's be friends. And then they just move on. No. In this case, it's like, yes, like you've dealt with the situation at hand, but that's like in the present. You're not factoring in all the abuse and emotional bullying that's happened over the past year or so,
and the habits, right?
And that lingers, right? That it affects your psyche, it affects your mental stability, and that's something that the main character explores throughout like the subsequent episodes. And I'm really glad to see that, because no, I don't want to see a kid get bullied and then have to deal with the after effects. That's not what I take enjoyment out of. Rather, I like seeing that it's clear that characters in the series recognize that there are lingering effects of bullying, and therefore they band together to try and make that person feel better, make them feel more accepted, more comfortable, and they know it's not going to be an immediate fix, that it's going to take time to be able to get them back to a regular state.
I just really hate bullying, but I like talking and discussing about bullying because it brings that topic to light. And I think everyone at a certain point understands at least or relates to that. So maybe I should not change it. I should change it from drop to maybe on hold or watching, because I'm pretty convinced now.
I think it's worth the watch. I think so. Like if I was to say like, oh, like Clueless First Friend, Yamada-kun, Cheat Skill Isekai, I would put my Clueless First Friend at the top between those three. Yeah.
Okay.
It still might not be an 8 just yet, simply because it's like
in your mind, right?
It's slowly building towards that. It's just like those shows where it's just like there aren't hype moments, there aren't things that kind of push the bar for you, but it's a very, very slow but steady ascent to at least like, ooh, everything came out very beautifully, and I really appreciate the time I spent watching it. I'll give it an 8. That kind of feeling.
That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah. The last thing I guess would be Ranking of Kings, the treasure chest of whatever. Forgot what it was.
Treasure chest of courage.
Yeah. So it's good. It's still very cute and pretty.
I mean, it's the spin-off, right? So there's not much you can really.
Yeah. It's just basically like what you want to know between like certain events that happen in the main series. So yeah, I can't really say much else other than I enjoy it. But if you haven't watched like all of Ranking of Kings, don't watch it yet.
So
That's
same
it.
good shit on the same good day kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it doesn't have the same.
different day.
It doesn't have the same level of like hype and like the crescendo in music for sure. Just because it's like action's not really the focus in this. But you'll still find enjoyment if you're a Ranking of Kings fan.
I mean, at least the concept reminds me a lot of Thus Spoke, Rohan Kishibe.
Kishibe Rohan
For English though.
Okay.
Okay, it's so dumb that they switch it like that. Okay, yeah, no.
I know what you're saying.
And I also
because I mix it up too.
And I know what you're saying as well. So, do you want to talk about Summertime Render and Uncle Isekai?
Bruh, Uncle Isekai. First of all, I'm fucking glad that all of it's on Netflix now.
Oh yeah, all of it's out now. By the way, so I have watched maybe 2 to 3 episodes after. I think I'm at either 10 or 11 out of 13.
I'm done.
9?
9.
There you go.
Absolutely a 9.
I think I will give it a 9 too.
It's
very likely.
It's just very funny, and the way that they do the storytelling is just perfect for the kind of medium they're going for, in the sense that it's like a back and forth like isekai reverse isekai. Because a lot of the story takes place within the isekai world, but then a lot of the reaction comes from the reverse isekai world.
Oh, Oji-san. Oh, you had an experience with like some Medusa servant? Tell me about it. And then boom, there you go.
Yeah.
And every time it works. It's just great.
You're just basically watching people watching an anime.
That's
That's actually kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, exactly. Oji-san, I hope your YouTube channel does blow up though. So
yeah.
you know.
You need that ad revenue.
Yeah, you need that viral sensation. All right, Summertime Render.
God damn. Where do I start? I mean, how far are you with it? Are you halfway?
Nope. I'm like 2 episodes in.
Only?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
But I think you're gonna enjoy every moment of it.
I only have one question because this Summertime Render is one of those where if you are spoiled, it is real bad. So we are not really going to talk about it other than Will's impressions are.
Just watch it.
Okay, there you go.
It's a 9 out of 10.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask. Okay, that was my question.
It's a 9 out of 10.
Is it a 9.5 though?
I was close to giving it a 10.
Got it.
I was close.
Then that considers it a 9.5 in my book.
And I don't think that like just because I gave it a 9 means there's anything really wrong with it. Like again, for me, it's like the difference between a 9 and a 10 is more personal.
Yeah, for me as well.
Even though there are some series that I'll be like, no, these are like the greatest series of all time. Everybody should absolutely watch it. I think like Summertime Render is close to being at that level. And the good thing as well is that like when you watch the whole thing. You've watched the whole thing. Apparently, it's pretty much it's adapted all the way from beginning to end.
Oh, really?
It's a complete adaptation.
Holy shit!
All 25 episodes.
Really? Because I thought originally the amount of manga volumes is like usually double the amount of a double cur.
So what I've read as well was I didn't read the manga, but what I've read from the discussion boards is that the chapters are very fast paced. They're relatively short. So they are able to cram in like several chapters into like one episode,
like Oshinoko.
So by the time it's like episode like 16, you're already like 80 chapters in, and there's 130 something chapters I think in total.
Something like that. Yeah. There's like 13 volumes or something. Yeah.
So there are definitely certain parts of the story in the anime adaptation that they stretch out a bit longer. Makes sense because you want more exposition. And there are parts where it's like if it's a bit more action focused, or if it's just like like blank slates to represent something, they kind of just skip that, which I'm completely fine with. But generally, it's like 95% faithfully adapted. The only things that aren't there are like censorship.
Okay, I'm just real glad that it is a complete adaptation because I was worried in the beginning that based on just purely the number of chapters and volumes that they would need at least 50 episodes. But if they adapted it in such a way that is good, as it seems like for all indications, it's great. So then therefore, I'm so happy that it's done. All of it.
It's good. I like it a lot. Now, were there other seasonals that you did watch? I think you said you wanted to watch like what Marginal Service.
I did not watch anything new because I would have, but I haven't started it yet because I wanted to finish all the other seasonals and also finish my homework for Gotta Watch Them All 7.
Right. Well, there is actually one series that we didn't mention last time in our premieres. Not that we didn't cover it, it's just the fact that we actually completely neglected to talk about it, which is The Legendary Heroes Dead. Don't watch it. That's it. Done. Just don't watch it.
So it's a dead show.
It's a very dead show.
There you go.
Nothing legendary about it.
Other than our opinions of it.
Yeah, that will always be like a top tier S+, whatever,
All right, so now that we have gone at length about what we have been watching.
Oh, also, Aoashi is really good. Done.
Okay. Let's go on to our news section. Will, what is our first news story?
Hold on a second. Looking through this blank slate. No, there's really no news. I think it's mostly because like we're not even halfway through the spring season, and usually like a lot of the news that does come through is just like criticisms of a specific episode or just further information about like the cast, like the voice cast for like a dubbing, like
or their new anime adaptations. They're nothing that at least this time around Will and I felt like we wanted to highlight or mention. So of course there are news that happens every day.
Yeah.
It's just that we felt like we wanted to spend more time talking about how current we are with the seasonal stuff and our thoughts on them. So
basically, if you're watching the spring season right now, like for 2023, you're in good hands. The shows are great.
I do think that spring 2023 overall, though, is a lot stronger than spring 2022. I think partly due to COVID, I think, at that time, right?
I think there might have been more shows now than there were back then.
I'm just very happy.
I think stat-wise, it's pretty similar, though.
I do think, though, regardless, spring 2023 is extremely healthy, full of life, and you should spend some parts of your life to watch spring 2023 seasonals.
Yep. So keep watching some good old anime this season. And if you're like us, you're very current to all the stuff that's already released. Why don't you put a pause on the seasonals and catch up on some stuff that you might not have watched before, like some of the greatest all-time series? Because now we're done with the rewatch. We're done with the news. We're going to go into a little bit of a preamble into today's discussion topic, which is the 7th iteration of the Gotta Watch 'Em All series. So as a reminder, Jason has been finishing off the 4th part of Jojo, which is Diamond's Unbreakable, as well as the 4-episode OVA, or ONA, whichever one it is, of Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan, or Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe. I will be covering the 2 curs of Sword Art Online Season 2, or just Sword Art Online 2.
So how Gotta Watch Them All works, we will put the rules and disclaimers on our website eventually. I'm sorry, I've been dropping the ball on that.
We got the stuff, like pretty much, we got the skeletons already. We just need to, make them go live. That's about it.
Yeah.
But just for the purpose of this, the first part of this discussion will be spoiler free, and then we'll have a bit of a break, and then we will go into spoiler sections for the respective series that we're covering in today's discussion. So if you don't care about spoilers, or you already watched it, just want to hear our thoughts, that's all fine. But we will put spoiler markers for the timestamps on our website, along with the podcast info as well.
And usually we would have a couple of seconds of silence, so then you can hear the siren in the background. But also just so that if you were to accidentally click on it, you know right away that, okay, you're just like waiting so then you don't misclick or whatever. So you know right away. And we would usually start by saying, oh, this is a spoiler section for XYZ. So there you go.
Yep.
Non-spoilers for Jojo Part 4, Diamond's Unbreakable, the rest of what I haven't finished, but now I have.
Pretty much the second half of it.
Right.
4 episodes of Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan.
And Sword Art Online Season 2. So which one do you want to tackle first? The non-spoiler stuff.
Let's go over... Well, since you started talking about your seasonal stuff first, let's go into Sword Art Online.
All right.
I got a lot of stuff that's fresh in my mind, so yeah. So, Sword Art Online. It's, still adapted from the same, light novel. Still A1 Pictures. I think it came out 2014?
Summer of 2014, yeah. Spanning 24 episodes. Current mouse stats is pretty hard.
Yeah,
to
6.7, right?
Yeah, rank 5536, popularity 34, 1.859 million fans.
So that's
or members.
That's essentially the sort of weird contradictory space that we're in right now with Sword Art Online, because I think that the stats aren't that different for season 1. Okay, fine, it's a half a point higher. I think season 1 was a 7.2, but it ranks like in the top 10 or top 15 for popularity,
something like that.
Yeah, so it's
just really popular.
I mean, it's still insanely popular. I think there's like 2, maybe 3 million members on the MAL entry list for Sword Art Online season 1. Season 2 still very high, like 34, right? Rank 34.
Yeah.
And
popularity 34, not rank 34.
Oh, yeah, popularity. The rank is much lower. Yeah, the ranking is right.
Yeah, 5536. I will just say that we are now venturing into the territory where I have not watched any of the Sword Art Online stuff beyond half of season 2, and or No Scale. I've watched the movie, but beyond that, I have not watched Gun Gale Online. The spinoff. I have not watched any of Alicization and the War of the Underworld. So therefore,
is it Alicization? They'll probably say it in the anime.
They probably say it in the anime. So therefore, I can only guide Will as much as half of season 2. So usually, gotta watch them all. One person knows all. The other person
or
right?
most, because it can be tough to remember everything, right? Especially since how many was it, at least like 2-3 years ago since you like read and watched Monogatari. It's been like 2 years since I've watched the part you're on right now for Jojo.
Yeah, so we are now venturing into unknown territory, but we have also ready a bunch of stuff to talk about for season 2. So
So for season 2 of Sword Art Online, it covers 3 different arcs. One of which is like a main story arc called the Phantom Bullet, which were the 5th and 6th volumes of the light novel, and then the side stories of Caliber and Mother's Rosario, which were adapted from volumes 7 and volumes 8. 24 episodes in total. It's not like an even split just because there's 3 parts, but of course the majority of it is focused on Phantom Bullet. So contrary to the name being Sword Art Online, there's not a whole lot of sword action for the most
part. Only from one person, right? Mainly,
So this then basically follows like the aftermath of what happened in the Aincrad and the
fairy one.
Yeah, the Aloe arcs of season 1, where Kirito is now like being tasked to work on a specific mission because there's been another rising of mysterious deaths that have been taking place on this game server of Gun Gale Online.
And this is the plot synopsis, so it is not considered spoilers by us. It is in the trailers. If you can easily like find it on Wikipedia. So it's these. What we're about to say is not considered spoilers.
Yeah. So all the usual suspects in terms of who you've seen from season 1 all return for season 2. Kirito is still the way too overpowered main character. Asuna is there in some capacity. There's some introductions of new characters because you're now playing in a new game. And the whole remark I said about the whole like, oh, they're not even in like a sword fighting world anymore. It's all just guns. That's not a bad thing. I think that the score itself on my anime list is kind of fair, but not really. And I'll get into that in the spoiler section. But what I will say is that there are definitely like different feelings I had throughout watching Sword Art Online based on the arc that I was focusing on. So Phantom Bullet, the main arc, is like generally like the main continuation of the story, the main plot of the light novel, and the side stories are more sort of like they felt kind of filler-esque, but they do dive into like certain characters where you hadn't seen a specific side of this person or that person, and it really sort of grows certain sort of themes, certain genres that would make Sword Art Online a popular light novel series in the first place.
Does it jump around in terms of the timeline with your add-on thing?
You mean the side stories?
Yeah, like after
they
Phantom
continue.
Blood.
They continue. Phantom Bullet. Phantom Blood is Jojo.
Fuck, God.
I know it's annoying actually because literally it's just Phantom Blood, Phantom Bullet,
And then I'm gonna
easy
say
mix-
Phantom Train with Mugen Train, and then we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of which, Demon Slayer, keep watching that shit.
Yeah.
So it keeps the story moving forward. So it's not like random like time skip like back into the past. It's more like so these things happen over Phantom Bullet, and then a little bit later, then you have this arc, and then you have that arc afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think my opinion of Sword Art Online 2, the first half, because that's all I consumed, and then I dropped it.
Did you finish that arc though, Phantom Bullet? Or like you're
I'll just
pretty
say I'll just say the tournament was over, or whatever the competition thing was over.
Yeah.
I'll just say that because I know how they quote unquote found a loophole. Let's just say.
Yeah.
So I finished up to that point, and then I was just like, you know what, like I'm good. Like that's why I said to myself, and then I've not kept up with it, and it seems like it was okay that I did not keep up with it in terms of season 2.
That was one thing I did like, the fact that it had a tournament arc. Because I don't think it had one. I mean, it was literally just a fight for survival.
It was like a dungeon run rather than a tournament arc in season 1, right?
It's basically like, which clan is going to be the one to clear this dungeon?
Ascend the tower, yeah.
Who can get to level 100 before anyone else?
Who can slay the spire? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's essentially
great game, by the way, but not Sword Art Online game.
Yeah. I don't really know what else to say. That isn't really a spoiler, actually.
I will tell you that the new main addition of a new female character is probably my favorite. I mean, it's only been like 1.5 seasons, but it is my favorite character in all of Sword Art Online. Obviously, in Alicization, I'm sure there would have been others that I would have picked as my Sword Art Online waifu, but this new edition is good.
Yeah. And like before I go into the spoiler stuff for SAO 2 in the second half of this episode, I think that the concerns and criticisms I had from season 1, they kind of carry over into this arc as well. In that, I will talk more about that in the spoiler section.
There is a very weird, controversial thing that I've at least picked up on. I don't know if that's faithful to the adaptation or not, but it has to do with Kirito and sort of the way that is perceived. So, again, I won't say any more, but I thought that the whole saying of, well, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, well, that is the first half of Sword Art Online Season 2 in a nutshell. And I did think, though, the action scenes were done pretty well. Very, very well animated for the most part.
Oh, fantastic.
The whole Sakuga moments, you know.
Much like how we were saying that, like, there weren't really any of those moments in the A1 adaptation for Mashal. Like, yes, this series did come out 9 years ago, right? But
still just as pretty.
Still really pretty. I think, like, you watch it now, you would feel that it came out fairly recently. No, it's been almost a decade that, Sword Art Online 2 came out.
They threw money at this series, and rightfully they should because it's a very popular and well-known series. But I thought the gunfights were pretty good because sword fights, if you don't like choreograph it to shit or choreograph it to death and very intricate, the gunfights could have done way lazier, let's just say.
But they definitely add like some technical elements to it, which is like
strategic elements for sure.
Which is like very appreciated. Like it's like they easily could just done like a run and gun kind of thing.
Like, is it a SWAT team level type of strategy? No, but it is good enough that clearly some attention was paid and details was made towards the whole how the action scene plays out. So
I think we'll just leave it at that because like any more we talk about, like then we're going to be starting into like spoiler territory.
Okay.
So
before you go though, before we go off of this, what is your score for the first half? What is your score for the second half? And then what is your score for season 2 complete?
See, now that one I would actually need to discuss in the spoiler section.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of reasoning for each one of those. So I don't want to just go into it just yet.
Okay.
So I will leave it for the end, though.
All right. So then that wraps up our non-spoiler section for Sword Art Online Season 2. And now let's get into the bizarrest of JoJo adventures.
And that's like no joke either. This is literally the weirdest part.
Literally the weirdest part. Part 4 Diamond is Unbreakable. Is going to be the main focus. Of course, thus spoke Kishibe, Rohan Kishibe.
See which one's more comfortable for you.
Rohan Kishibe.
Yeah.
So I'm just
that's how I remember it too.
Yeah, because that's like the westernized rather than the Japanese or Asian way where the surname goes first, right? Yeah. So let's just talk about first though Diamond's Unbreakable. I don't know if this is a spoiler because it is not from JoJo. It's my personal take. This is my favorite JoJo by a mile.
JoJo part or JoJo character?
Part.
Okay. I was going to say, you like Josuke now?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
I still like him. He's not my favorite, though.
He's not my favorite, but I would say JoJo Part 4 is a 9 out of 10 without a doubt. And it was close to going over a 9 to 9.5, but I just couldn't really, because there were still some shitty parts of it that really bothered me, but not like, oh, this is like, blasphemy. It was more like, oh, it's just JoJo being JoJo, but I can't also ignore that either, I would say, first of all, the OP is dope.
Yeah. You like the second half OP better than the first one. Okay. I like both.
It's called Great Day. Yeah. I fucking love it. It's also towards the end of Part 4, the OP kind of changes, just like at the end of Part 3, and then the sound effects happen. You can hear the sound effects, because in the very beginning of the OP, in the previous episodes, you can't hear. It's just the music. But it's just nice that a call back to that kind of trend, and they change the OP at a certain point, even though it's the same song. It's great.
Yeah, as much as I tend to skip OPs for a lot of series, there are, of course, ones which I absolutely do not, just because they either give you clues as to what to expect for like the rest of the series you're going to be watching, or they're just also super enjoyable. I think the fact that like the music is really good for most of the JoJo series is what keeps me going in terms of like, you know what, I'm not skipping the intro. I'm just going to watch it unless I've already like watched it like 3-4 times. Especially if I'm binging, then I'll just skip every now and then. But this is not like a must skip OP.
If I can pray to the JoJo gods for one thing, at least currently, it would be the following. I want to wake up every day and have the radio DJ
Mordio Cho Radio
play right at the moment I wake up.
It's so good. I love it.
That DJ, like that whole snippet is probably the most hidden dark horse MVP of Part 4.
Good morning, Mario. I hope you all have a very beautiful day. And then fucking mysterious murder shit happens.
Or bad shit happens, right? But I just love that intro. It is very typical of like those suburban 1990s, or to accurately summer of 1999. But it's just, I just love the DJ thing. No one maybe really like digs that as much as I do.
I fucking love it. I think it's a really nice touch.
Sorry about that.
Just because we're like, no jokes as well. Like we are fully aware that this is like the most left field, the strangest of the JoJo parts, but I really fucking love it.
And here, let's talk a bit about that. So one thing that JoJo Part 1, 2, and 3, Phantom Blood Battle Tendency, and Stardust Crusaders, right? They are all very epic in scale.
Like journey-based kind of action series.
I would say globe-trotting adventure, right?
Definitely action-adventure.
It's like around the world in 80 days type kind of feel, right?
We got to go somewhere, and they go through like 4 or 5, maybe 6 locations throughout the span of the series, whereas this is like very much...
And they have like narration of like, oh, this country has this kind of culture, this kind of practice.
What awaits them on the borders of the next location they go to. Whereas here, it's like, good morning, Mario.
Do you like Simpsons?
Yeah.
Do you like American Dad? Because this is exactly kind of like that. And I have to say, though, despite the small scale of the setting, towards the latter half of Part 4, it feels just as epic. In fact, I would say that they distill all the crazy, epic bizarreness, absurdity of what makes JoJo JoJo, but then they kind of trim the fat of that whole globe-trotting, that whole mysticism, that whole wonder of exploring the world of the planet Earth.
Yeah.
And instead focuses on the characters, the 4D chess, mind games.
Like in the previous parts, they go through like England, they go through like Rome, they go
Egypt,
to Egypt,
right?
they go through like Shanghai and Hong Kong and all that. But you never really actually get enough time to immerse yourself in the environment. Whereas this, it's like you feel like you're in Morio and watching it.
And there's nothing wrong with that kind of grand scale travelogue type setting. But when it is focused on one like suburban city, town, not city, I would say it's a town, right?
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, oh, you're right. That's the convenience store that everyone goes to. Oh, that's the mall. Oh, wow. It feels very much alive in terms of the lore because then you're not like whisked away into some other like country. You're whisked away into the next block.
And it really helps for you to sort of explore like deeper like character composition, right? You get to know more about specific characters.
Oh, that's the town square in the middle with the roundabout.
Oh, that's where they get their crepes and all that. Oh, this is, the local cafe where they have their morning coffees.
It just puts context on the setting. So then 2 episodes later, I don't just get whisked away and then all of a sudden a new set of cultures and standards and practices and a narration. It's just, oh, but we did not forget that there's a tourism angle. And I love that they did not forget that in the second half as well. The other thing that I like a lot about JoJo Part 4, the second half, is the stand battles. I think that more so than ever, there is less focus on the actual, let's blunt
force beat the shit out of each other.
Yes.
And actually sit back and think about how we're supposed to take out this enemy.
There is literally multiple enemies, including the quote-unquote big bad villain, where they're very weak. They admit that they're very weak, and the characters know that they're very weak, but they become the most overpowered character because they outthink, they outsmart each other. There's one character that, let's just say, does a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Fucking phenomenal. Only lasts not that long in terms of the whole pantheon of JoJo Part 4. But just like, he was fucking scary. There's something involving a highway. Also very, very scary. And just done so well. They explore how to overcome the villains, not really through sheer strength, although it does rely on sheer strength, but also relies on wit and brain, and also the last thing is cooperation. I think the ensemble cast is great. The fact that everyone kind of bands together at a certain point to tackle an issue, it makes me feel like, oh, right, because when you have a bunch of stand users and you're all kind of on the same team, there's bound to be a good versus evil that we all know, whereas in the previous JoJo's, there's only like...
It was like JoJo and his buddies.
Yes, exactly. Whereas here, it's just JoJo is like one person rather than like the focal point, right? And even though there are more JoJo's,
I mean, the fact that like 3 JoJos show up in this part, right? And that's fair game.
Because that's in the first half already. Yeah. You should know that by now. Yeah. So it's not necessarily spoilers because it is already in the first half. So you wouldn't listen to this if you didn't. Yeah. Anyways, the point is that another thing was they made a lot of references to a lot of pop culture stuff. So if you know a little bit about the history of Araki and JoJo, he gets his inspiration from a lot of things, which is fine. There's no problem with that. But then when it comes to adapting it, there is a bit of an issue. And more, I think part 3 has vanilla ice.
Yeah, vanilla ice. Whereas like this part, it's like
there's a lot more now.
If you're an 80s or 90s kid, you will appreciate the fuck out of these names.
I did. And there were some rock songs, let's just say, that I was like, Araki.
What the fuck?
Bro. Bruh. Like, first of all, that's awesome. But second of all, like, dude, what were you thinking? But okay, I'm all sold out, ready to go. I think that the ending of part 4 is quite open-ended. Everything, as you might expect, wraps up. And it is a weaker ending than I expected, but really? It was a good ending. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I thought the ending was good too, but definitely like was it the perfect resolution to what you had seen for like the past 39 episodes?
Like, it was satisfying, but it wasn't like the credits rolled and my jaws dropped and I'm like, fuck, I need to know, or what the fuck was that? Let's discuss. It was just like, yeah, that was great. That was a great ride.
Yeah. Endings are tough though. I think endings in general, like they're always going to be like the resolution, the open-ended one, the mystery, like, ooh, did they really finish their mission kind of thing, especially with these kinds of series.
Especially at the end of part 3, right? There was that like cliffhanger kind of thing. So it was quite interesting that they ended the way it did, but also I have nothing bad to say about the ending of part 4. I will say, though, my favorite 2 characters is still Koichi and Rohan Kishibe. That's like just obvious. So I love those characters. I think they're really good. I also think, though, look, this is not spoilers, but the main bad of the latter half of part 4 is a fucking scumbag. But is probably the most formidable opponent I have seen in JoJo thus far. Now, are there other villains that have crazy powers? Yes. Even more so than the main bad villain in the latter half of part 4. I don't want to say the name because it's spoilery, but
like in terms of like the depths of evil within this person.
Yeah, and just sheer like, oh, I will combine stuff or do certain strategies to enhance what I've got, and just the quandary and the predicament that all these characters go through. I mean, I'm not going to say anything more other than that grade schooler, that grade school kid is...
Yeah.
Dude was a grade school kid and turned into a man, metaphorically speaking, so fucking fast. Like, I'm so proud of him, even though I'm not related to him, obviously, because he's fictional and he's 2D. But I'm just like, damn, man, that would suck if I was in that position. And I probably would not do the same thing the kid did. But
man, we're going to have to talk a lot about this stuff for the spoiler, because, damn, that kid is second half MVP.
There are some not necessarily filler arcs, but that involves a certain character that I just was not vibing with. And I was like, oh, maybe towards the end they will do something about this character. And it turns out that, oh, he's just another one of the ensemble cast. But it doesn't make sense to me, but fine. And certain battles that, let's say, are fixed in one location was kind of cool. I can expand on that in the spoilers. But that villain just came and went, or came and stayed, let's just say.
Yeah. So but do you think do you have any other sort of like general thoughts on JoJo that are non-spoilery, or do you feel that this might be a good time to, put the brakes on, maybe, just chill out for a bit and then
this is by far my favorite JoJo. That's what I will say to wrap up before we go to the break. There's without a doubt, this is my favorite JoJo thus far. Okay, I can't speak for part 5 and 6, but
thus spoke Jason Fung. There you go.
Yep.
All right. So that pretty much wraps up the non-spoiler discussion for today's Gotta Watch 'Em All episode, part 7. And we'll go into the break, after which, look, if you haven't watched or read any of this stuff, come on, like, why? And at the same time, like, if you have watched...
Well, if you're not watched Sword Art Online too... Fair, right?
But it's like, if you already watched the first half of JoJo and you're going into this, then, like, come on.
Oh, sorry. Before we get to our break, hold the brakes on that. There is one thing that I do want to talk to you, maybe non-spoiler, but let's decide right now, which is, we have heard, and I'm because we have discussed this, that people might want to skip certain JoJo parts and go straight to either 3 or 4. As I've heard that before. Have you heard that before?
Yes, because people always see that part 1 and part 2 are the weakest of the JoJo series.
Well, to be fair, part 1 is kind of iffy.
Yeah, but I think you still need to watch it. It's just like, oh, should I just skip half of Steins Gate to get to the good stuff? No, because you need to know like the backstory of certain characters before you go into like the latter stages of JoJo. So
yeah,
don't skip 1 and 2. What the hell? You might not appreciate it, but I think you should still watch it,
because we have heard arguments that you should skip to straight to part 4 or skip to part 3, then like have like some sort of primer to know who's what and does what. But honestly, don't.
Yeah, watch part 1. Watch part 2. Especially part 2 is one of the saddest character tragedies throughout JoJo.
Yes, I would say so. And sure, is it just as good as part 3 or part 4? Part 1 and 2 I'm speaking of. No. I'll be very fair. No. But it's mandatory, in my opinion, to really appreciate the whole lineage, right?
It's like, do I need to watch Nisei Monogatari? Like, you could skip it if you
could
want.
skip it.
But there's certain parts of it where you're like, you know what? Like, I'm glad I watched it. I didn't rate it that highly, but, like, I wouldn't have skipped it anyway.
It's not a rite of passage or mandatory in that sense. I just think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you really want to be invested in JoJo.
If you're going to do JoJo, Monogatari, Sword Art Online, or whatever series you go over for the Gotta Watch Them All, do yourself a favor and just go all in. That's all I'll say.
And let's go all in on this break.
Yep. Catch y'all later.
Peace.
Welcome back to the Good Anime Palette Podcast. We are now going into the second half of episode 57, the Gotta Watch 'Em All, part 7. We're still talking about JoJo part 4. We're still talking about Sword Art Online season 2, but this time we're going into the spoiler section. So if you haven't already gotten the hint, if you haven't caught up with these specific series, don't know why, because these things came out almost 10 years ago, then maybe check out our previous episodes and watch and listen to some stuff that might interest you. But if you're here to learn more about our perspectives and the nitty-gritties of our perspectives on these particular series, listen on. Still Will, still Jason. How are you doing, man?
It's doing good. So, yeah, we will split up this spoiler section into subsections. So if you just want to listen to the JoJo spoilers or just listen to the Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe section, I don't know why, but if you also just want to listen to the Sword Art Online, we'll make sure that you are able to do so. So, Will, spoilers for which?
Let's do JoJo first. I think that because it seems there's gonna be a lot to talk about for JoJo, and then through that we can then sort of guesstimate how much time we have for SAO.
Perfect. So, spoilers for JoJo Part 4, not Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe,
but just Diamond's Unbreakable.
Yep.
The second half. So I think episode 16 onwards.
Yes.
Yep.
Moment of silence for a couple of seconds. Okay, spoilers, JoJo Part 4, all of it. So I think that Dio is a very, very good villain, very iconic villain.
It's the classic anime trope type of villain, right?
Has been memed to death, but I love the memes. I do have to say that Kira is very much almost. So if I would say Dio is quantified or described as a god, because he kind of is, I would say Kira is very much almost your working man, psycho killer, brain.
He's
like Dexter, but
he's
evil.
Like a subconscious follower of Dio, in that he does some real evil, fucked up shit, but not in the same way that Dio executes them.
Yeah, when Dio does really fucked up shit, it is almost whimsical, absurd, and comical. I'm thinking of, for example, telling spoilers for part 3. I mean, it's all spoilers. Having a driver run into probably tens of people just to make a point is something that Kira would never do. And I think the fact that he just quote unquote wants to live a peaceful life, obviously excluding his killing spree.
Yeah, peaceful life, murdering people. As peaceful a life a murderer can get.
I'm just an everyday salary man with a vengeance, and I'm also probably one of the most prolific serial killers in the lore of JoJo. But hey,
I think
don't worry about me.
I think the main difference is that when you see JoJo doing, Dio doing Dio things, it's very clear that all the shit, all the mayhem you see is the work of Dio. Whereas with Kira, he's very under the radar, and he wants to stay that way because he just doesn't want anybody interrupting his peaceful life.
Yes.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
But in that sense, when you start seeing him do his evil shit, you're like, wow, you are a maniacal, conniving sumbitch.
So the moment that I think a lot of people, including myself, realizes the sheer obsessive nature of Kira is when they go to his house. And then you see the way that all the records have been kept of his nails, all of the pictures and trophies are all like third place, or he is so meticulous and calculated in being in pictures that he doesn't stand out too much, but he's also there.
He also got that weird obsession with ladies' hands.
Well, that's already like, okay, every serial killer or every psycho
has to have something,
has
right?
a fetish.
They have to have a hobby, basically.
Right. So what I'm saying is, Kira, your fetish or your hobby, your shtick as a serial killer is run of the mill, but your 4D chess crazy ass mind game
420 IQ.
Yo, I am going to combine bombs with air bubbles in order to have a floating air bubble bomb. I'm just like, fucking what? Yeah.
What did you make of him being able to obtain 2 different stands?
And 3 powers, technically.
Yeah. Because I think there's like stages of one of his stands, right? If I remember correctly.
So he has Heart Attack, which is the tank. Then he has, which is part of Killer B's like gauntlet on the left hand, and Killer B is Killer Queen. Sorry, not Killer B. Killer Queen, which by the way, Freddie Mercury and the rock band Queen. You have another one, Bites the Dust song. I mean, come on, guys. Like, Araki, like...
You also have Earth, Wind, and Fire at some point as well.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire is in there, too.
I know Highway...
Highway Star?
Highway Star by Deep Purple, and the fact that the stand is purple-colored. Like, boys... How do I say it correctly, Will? The Boys to Men one.
Oh, Boy to Man.
Boy to Man. Listen, I'm guessing it gets worse. Quote unquote worse, as in like the references become more blatant, right? And then they have to change it for copyright purposes.
I mean, we talked about how there was that little controversy for Stone Ocean, right?
Yeah. Koichi, by the way, and this is not me Googling it, and I don't know for a fact if this is true, but Echoes Act 1, 2, and 3 looks very much like Dragon Ball Z's Cell Saga in terms of his different forms, to the point where when Koichi gets really mad, he has a Super Saiyan moment, like his hair literally goes up like Goku when he turns Super Saiyan. I'm just like, it's so obvious, but I fucking love it. Obviously, what's that girl's name? The hair girl? I forgot.
Yokaku. Yamagishi.
Yeah, Koichi's like basically... Oh, I also called the fact that they're together. I think it's kind of cute. If you have a yandere that's into you, that's as peaceful and wholesome of a relationship you can get, I would presume. And her hair ability reminds me of like the folklore, Japanese folklore, the girl with the long hair that controls hair. That's a very common kind of a yokai ghost story type of thing. But let's go back to Kira. I think his powers are reasonably overpowered. And what I mean is like he can't fucking stop time.
Yeah.
Okay? And he uses his abilities to not only wreak havoc, but also combine them in such a way that it is just massively scary. In some ways, I would say even more scarier than Dio, because in a sense, Dio, you're fucked, right? But with Kira, I think like, oh, I might have a fighting chance, but that's false hope.
And you see like your fighting chances slowly fade away.
Yeah, like it's even
every time they replay time, right?
Yo, let's talk about that. Okay, so we're jumping around, but let's talk about...
Before we get
sorry. Yep.
Where does Kira, at least, I mean, like specifically this Kira, not like Kira from Death Note, right? Where does this Kira rank in the pantheon of anime villains for you?
Oh, fuck. Shit.
Like, is it S tier? Is it A tier? Definitely not B tier and below, but it's like, I think it's in the thereabouts of like A and S tier.
Okay. Like gut reaction, it is A.
Because there's some really good anime villains, right? But he's definitely like on the cusp of like joining that party. It's just that we've seen better.
I would say he could have been more of an S, but I'm struggling because when you get to, like, let's say within the group of A tier and S tier villains, I don't always say your abilities, like your actual like powers, determine how villainous you are, right?
Yeah.
And Kira is definitely have powers that are pretty OP.
Yeah.
The problem is,
I think at the same time, it's also like for every 50 A tier villains, there's like only one S tier. Right?
Exactly.
It's really hard to get into that.
And when
top
you're
bracket.
in that group, everyone is off. It's like, oh, you got into Harvard. You were an A+ student, always first in your class. But congratulations, now you're in a pool of everyone being in the same situation previously. So now you're in some tough competition. So I think along the same lines, I say Kira is in an A but not S tier. But so I really want to give him an S tier because he's just such a fucking evil.
So part 4, your favorite part of Jojo. Kira, your favorite villain of Jojo.
I like Dio more, but I would say Kira is the better villain.
Right. Because he kind of breaks the mold of like the typical anime villain, and especially in like a shonen action. He's a little bit more calculating, a little bit
way
more
calculating. Like, let's talk about into Hayato's time loop, July 15th, which is a 4-parter. Okay, so just how evil is and how smart is Kira, right? He somehow figures out that he is in a time loop without knowing it, like instinctively, but actually that's incorrect. He feels it instinctively but doesn't know it until he figures it out. And the shit that he puts Hayato through is such a like struggle, right? Imagine being a grade school kid, not being able to tell that your dad is not your dad. He is probably one of the, and now your dad is now the serial killer. Your mom is obsessed with your dad, and they're, you know, kind of like lovey-dovey, but don't be lovey-dovey with a serial killer. Maybe it's okay in certain cases, but he's going to murder her at some point and murder you as the kid. You can't tell anyone about this problem because once you do, they're fucked, and you see ramifications of that. So here's the part where I'm a bit iffy, Will. So I knew that I did not know what the contents of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe were.
Yeah.
But the fact that there was a spinoff, I thought that he was not going to die. I did not have any doubt in my mind. Of course, you could say, well, did you know that it was a spinoff and it kind of inserts himself as like just like how Ranking of Kings have Treasures of Courage or whatnot. So I did not know that. I thought it was like an offshoot. And when you told me like, oh, watch it after, that's when I was like, oh, that means that he survives. So I did not have that sense of urgency when he dies. But the problem of him, Hayato, not being able to tell, and then seeing all the two JoJos, and who was the other two? Oh, yeah, Koichi and who's the
guy with the X on his face,
the
right?
gangsta guy who almost died. Okay, that's another thing, too.
I think his name was... I'll look it up.
Yeah, so I thought that Hayato figuring out how to navigate...
Nijimura.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one with the hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
How to navigate how to outsmart his quote-unquote dad, or Kira, is so smart, and in a way has nothing to do with him being a great schooler, and it doesn't dismiss the genius that Araki wrote in order to have everything pan out the way it is. It's just like, imagine Groundhog's Day, but you wish it wasn't.
Yeah. Hayato is just essentially an extremely intelligent and also very paranoid child. Because as soon as, like, dad comes home, he's already like, hold on a second, something's not right here. And then he goes to the bathroom. And then he finds out. And then, yeah.
I thought that...
It got tense at times during
I thought murdering Hayato was a quote-unquote taboo thing to do in anime and manga. They still did it, but then halfway, because clearly he wasn't quote unquote murdered. He was murdered somewhat.
Yeah, it's like as much as there's a lot of blood, gore, and violence in anime and manga, like the one thing that you really don't want to do is kill kids.
I mean, in general, you don't want to do that, but in more so in media, right? And so I just can't. Again, when I am speechless, it's not because I am not aware of what I'm trying to say, because I have it all written out in the document in front of me, but I'm speechless because I'm kind of in awe, you know? I really do think that the Highway, what's it called? Highway Star fight was very interesting because it took place originally in an enclosed space. Then there is the whole dynamic between Rohan Kishibe and Yosuke. The fact that they don't get along, but then they back each other up. The fact that he has to navigate on a bike the areas. And I really think that Yosuke I don't like as a character, especially his shtick of insulting his hair, which they kind of don't do anymore, which is good.
Who's Yosuke?
Josuke.
Yeah.
Fuck. Well, okay.
You had Yamagishi on your mind. That's what you had.
Okay, so Josuke, he uses his healing powers almost like 4D chess in the end. He does not only heal, reassemble, fix, but have it home onto like a missile, homing missile. It's fucking genius. How to navigate out of certain predicaments by using the power of restoration is so like Full Metal Alchemist Ed kind of style. I love it to death.
I think like
awesome.
I think it's clear that like you seem to really love or at least appreciate more the stands that take place in part 4.
I even like that
part.
Cinderella arc. I thought it was a very, you could say it's a bit misogynistic, but it's not.
Yeah,
in my opinion at least. But it's
a product of its time. Really.
Yeah, but I think it was a very cool kind of side story in such a way, and it was a very romantic story in the end, and I thought it was just great. I thought the dumbass rock paper scissors arc.
Oh, Junkin Boy.
Which, by the way, the best use of English translation word pun while retaining the aura or the feel vibe of Stone Paper Scissors, because Junkin Bo is rock paper scissors, but then the title is Junkin Boy. So it's one of those things where you have to know English and have to know Japanese in order to be able to do that kind of wordplay. Because you can easily say rock paper scissors boy, right?
And let's be real, one of the most intense games of rock paper scissors, right?
Fucking jump into the sky and then, put rock, but then somehow it turned into paper, and it's just like so dumb. I fucking love it. What I don't like though is the alien. I think the alien is
Michiku, whatever his name is.
I don't even give a shit about his name because I think it's dumb. The fact that he can turn into that dice scene, which by the way, Josuke, I don't know if you've known this, and I know, like, look, smoking, I don't condone underage smoking, but a lot of high school kids smoke or start smoking when they're in high school. Don't do it, but okay, I can't stop you.
Oh, Mikitaka, his name is Hazakura. Yeah,
I see. But also,
he's the one that has the earth, wind, and fire ability.
But also, like, hey, maybe not gamble.
Come on, man.
Like, that's a small thing, but it's just kind of dumb. The whole, like, it felt like a filler arc. The him gambling with Rohan Kishibe, fine. If you think, like, gambling, that whole thing is, like, me nitpicking, it is. But that arc itself serves no purpose.
What, the introduction of the alien?
Even so, the alien...
I think it's just... I mean,
he's in a tower.
Weird, small town. You find this human, like, lying in the middle of a
like
crop
signs,
circle. Yeah,
like,
it's like that. It's like E.T. I mean, this whole thing is like basically just some extraterrestrial life form introduced into some small town that already has enough mysteries.
And then they shoot the arrow through him, but it didn't hit him.
It hits him
what
in the
the
neck,
fuck?
but he does get like some effect.
He's like
from
grazed,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So, okay. But
I mean, I can understand if he's not your favorite character. I get that.
Yeah, so again, I'm only trying to find things to nitpick because I'm actually quite extremely happy with everything else. The last thing that I will say though is the death count. So usually in part 1, 2, and 3, the death count by the end of it is massive, such that sometimes only 1 or 2 people survive, period. But when let's just call it the Kira villain arc happens, very little casualties, of course there are casualties, but very little casualties actually occur. And what do you feel about that?
I think that's fine because it's like it plays into like a murder mystery. Like the whole point in having like not the whole point. In terms of like this is going to sound really weird when I'm talking about it, but in terms of like being a murderer, the last thing you want is to get people like catching on to your scent, being able to figure out what you're doing. So
to be honest, Kira was like, "Fuck, I don't want to cause attention, so I can't murder all of you, but you leave me no choice, so I'm gonna have to now." In fact, that was his problem that he keeps telling himself, like, I'm having a shit day, or luck is on my side. Thank God I can go home and live a peaceful life. You know, that kind of thing.
Whereas, like, the previous 3, it's like the previous 3 parts is literally like gods and deities laying waste to, you know, enemies and non-believers. So it makes sense that there would be like genocides and mass murders, like of like global scale. In the whole sense of like more, like I think that's what it is.
You mean for like the scale of globe-trotting type of scale versus
that's also it's like it's like we're comparing literal gods, or at least people attaining that god title in, you know, the 3 stone men from part 2 and Dio in parts 1 and part 3, and then you have like a small town but really evil murderer in Kira. I think
stopping time for 10 seconds is also like, I'm really happy that they didn't overuse it for part 4. They could have, you know, they could have, right? So
I think that in terms of like the stand battles, it definitely, like you said, it's not as like physical confrontation. It's more sort of like, damn, like some real fucked up shit's happening. How do we figure this out?
Enigma, bro. Fucking enigma. Oh, I'm just gonna observe people, but the moment they have like that nervous tick is game over. Holy fuck. Or how about like, hey, I'm revealing to you that that in my enigma ability is I can put these people inside a piece of paper, but is that piece of paper there or not? Oh, hey, Josuke, your best buddy just got almost murdered because an explosion occurred and his body is like almost on the brink of death. But did I plant a bomb on there or no? And it's just like, fucking let's go, dude. Like, as in let's go, as in like, that was hella dope. To put you in that tension, that tense moment is something that is not fabricated through, oh, I can control time. I mean, I'm not trying to say that those moments are not created or choreographed well, but these kinds of tense moments are things that I can relate to in the sense of, okay, I won't know if I won't be, hopefully will never be in a scenario where I am not sure if a friend has a bomb on them or not.
Yeah.
But the tense moment of, well, is he telling the truth or not, is something that, you know, we play board games a lot, is we encounter that all the damn time, right? Or just in real life too, right? So the fact that you relate it and it's choreographed or kind of portrayed in such a way that is so tense, I fucking love it. And towards the end, right, when Kira is fighting Hayato, well, not fighting Hayato, but Hayato's there, Josuke, and who else was there? There was what's the guy's name again? The guy with the X, the hand.
We'll just call him the hand.
The hand.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like literally around the corner. So I was expecting that they would go get help, but maybe they couldn't, and then they had to go into that house. It was such a good kind of scenario where help is literally around the corner, but the moment you do so is going to be dangerous and potentially death for a lot of them. How do you get about it? Oh, I'm about to die. What do I do? And it is just that last couple of episodes, I think the last like 7 or 9 episodes, you could not sit and watch like more than one sitting. Obviously, if it's a week by week release, you can't. But you really should watch it all the way through in one go.
Yeah.
It is such a good mixture roller coaster of events. Yeah.
So we covered a lot of the characters, right? A lot of like the main cast from Josuke's little, team of rambunctious teenagers. You also got Kita. What did you think about Yangu, the little spiky-haired fat boy that actually takes the bag?
Oh, Harvest?
Yeah.
No. He's
See,
all right.
I didn't like him
He's all right.
because he's more than just a snot-nosed. He literally is a snot-nosed brat. But I think it's like he plays into that sort of like greed profile a little too much, and like he bites off way more than he deserves.
I'll be honest, he was a cartoon character in the traditional sense of like Looney Tunes type style.
He was definitely real slapstick caricature.
Like he's not even, his greed is very scumbag nature, but I did not feel like he was a scumbag. I literally felt like he came out of Animaniacs, but then all of a sudden adapted into JoJo's Araki style.
Yeah.
So I didn't care for it that much. They didn't even talk about the lottery thing.
I mean, how did you feel when Kira killed him?
It was all right.
Yeah, I didn't feel much for him. It was like,
when he was pleading for help at the very, very end.
Yeah, when he was reaching towards the door.
That was kind of sad and kind of like shit.
Because it's like he's not like a bad person. He just had been wronged a lot, and he's just doing things the way he wants to because now he has a stand that literally is like game changing for him. But I think he just ventures a bit too much into the dark side in terms of like maybe if he hadn't grabbed that paper bag, and he thought he had his bread in there.
I mean, cheat skill isekai, my clueless first friend. You could easily envision that if you take those into the realm of JoJo, like into the JoJo world, they could have easily turned out like the Harvest guy could easily turned out like them, like peaceful, loving, like, oh, they might have superpowers, but they're like good people, right?
Yeah. Or it's like maybe they've been
bullying.
Or it's like they've been shat on, but it's like they've also got a good core of friends that can support them along the way and help them through their traumas.
And I think at one point literally the last moment as the two JoJos were ferrying off away, they were like, oh, people in Morio are heart of gold. And I'm just like, you should have said diamond, but sure, fuck it.
I think, yeah, this is just basically like if Morio is a real town or like you just know what Morio is based off of, I feel like this is a pretty good piece to sort of like drive like tourism. I would love to see a place like Morio.
They do exist all over America, by the way.
Yeah.
Not in Japan, all over America. Whether or not it is as eventful, hella no. But suburban life,
you'll probably find them in like Portland. You'll find it in like Seattle. I
mean, probably not recently due to just
but like back in the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah, for sure. 1999.
In the heyday of serial killers in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. So the last thing I want to say before we go very briefly into Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe is the bow and arrow. They have implied heavily, in fact, if not confirmed, that there are multiple bows and arrows. They also confirmed that the arrows are able to detect who can reliably get a stand, which in the very beginning, the guy was just randomly killing,
just shooting arrows and like seeing what's stuck.
So all of a sudden they changed the quote unquote lore or mechanics of the bow and arrow, and now there are multiple bow and arrows. Fine.
I mean, even Koichi like accidentally got shot with an arrow and luckily gained the stand. He could have easily died, right?
Yeah. So again, you know the answer to this. Does the bow and arrow... I mean, don't actually answer this question, but I suspect that the bow and the arrow might have a role in the future iterations, because there's only two scenarios where we know for a fact that there are other JoJo parts. That's not a spoiler. We also know for a fact that there are other stands. We also know that the JoJo lineage continues. So there's no quandary or no like queries about that. But how do you have other people get JoJo powers? They have firmly established there's a method to get JoJo powers. They've firmly established that there's multiple bows and arrows. The only other scenario is the Morio people kind of genetically spread the Jojo power, stand power.
Yeah, but remember as well, this is like a very small town, right? I think like what I mean. Don't forget that Jotaro, right? The super suave, full white suit Jojo, like
Fashion sense has drip, bro.
yeah, he's traveling around the world. So there's a bunch of like Jojo shit going, because don't forget, it's not just the fact that it's Dio. He's also got a bunch of followers, and his word spreads. So there's going to be other ways in terms of like how the power of the stand spreads around, how other people attain stands. I can't say for sure, like whether or not like there will be a recurring theme of seeing more bows and arrows in future iterations. But you're thinking you're right, along the right track.
I have to say, last thing is Grandpa Jojo. Wasted.
Bit of a waste.
Wasted.
Yeah.
And the baby, the invisible baby, other than one moment where Rohan Kishibe utilized the invisible baby during Stone, Paper, Scissors, I think.
Yeah.
That character, both of them are like, what the fuck? Like, the alien had more presence than Grandpa Jojo. At least in the second half.
I think the thing that like we've seen throughout all of JoJo is that whilst JoJos make great superheroes in anime, they also make terrible dads. None of the JoJos are good dads.
Yeah.
Joseph is a terrible dad to Jotaro. Jotaro literally just walked up and showed up to Josuke because, this is a child that's born out of wedlock. Like they're not good parents. But if we were to talk about good parents, what do you think about Kira's dad? The photo dude.
Listen. You can be very supportive of keeping your son alive and still be a shitty dad. I think Kira's dad, other than literally being a cartoon villain that somehow can fly due to certain reasons, that somehow works, I guess, because they tie it to like some bird or whatever, which is fine. Like, is it stupid? Yes, but it's actually something that I'm not really that fussed about because, sure. I only think that his relevance beyond the house that he was like situated in, and beyond him shooting the bow and arrow was at the very, very end when he was in the pocket of Hayato to basically walkie-talkie, phone, but walkie-talkie to Kira the locations of stuff.
Yeah.
That was when and the moment that he died and then Kira found out that he basically murdered his own dad, like, Araki, I need to know, like, do you have problems with your dad?
What's up with all these family relationships, man? I mean, like, in a way, like, I think that Yoshihiro Kira, like the dad, is kind of just like a continuation of Enya, the hag from part 3.
Good point. Yeah. Very good point.
Because they're very protective of not just like the followers and like the creation of the stands, but also like the bow and arrow.
Right, and
like,
they kind of have their own agenda of preserving Dio for the hag and also like keeping Kira alive.
Yeah.
By the way, the moment when Kira killed Cinderella, I felt real bad. And the moment that it was like the hand kind of retracts, so then he goes into Koichi goes into the streets and found out that the back door doesn't lead to a room but leads to outside, is such a great moment too, of just like the villain got away and kind of won and murdered your friends along the way and got away scot-free.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that sucks. That sinking feeling, right? Like, you're not going to get away with this. And he's kind of just shouting in the streets. I'm just like, bro.
Yeah. Well, speaking of great moments, right? Earlier in the non-spoiler section, you mentioned that whilst you liked the ending, it wasn't a great ending.
Yes.
Right? And I think, is it because it was like, it just provided the perfect resolution? Do you feel like they could have left a little more mystery at the end?
Well, the first thing that I thought was kind of not the same was, at least at the end of part 3, they referenced part 4. And at the end of part 2, I think they referenced Jotaro in his cell. So I watched all the way through. There is no post-credit stinger. And in a way, as like a small town, kind of like its own tight little small package, it wraps up nicely. So I that's why like I'm a little bit conflicted as to feeling satisfied but not feeling elated at the ending.
I think the reason why you didn't have as much of those sort of like cliffhanger, oh, what the hell's going on, kind of like mid scene or like end credits, is because parts 1, 2, and 3 were very like closely tied together, in that like a lot of stuff that happens throughout each part are all kind of interconnected.
Yeah, because spoiler alert, Dio was not factored into part 4 at least.
Part 4, it's very different story, and I think that that's what happens throughout the next couple of iterations. Because I think
I'm okay with that.
It's basically like you want to keep it fresh. You want to just add like new characters, introduce new environments, new stories.
I'm not saying that you need to have Dio like revived and like sewn back into the storyline. If that happens, fine. But I really do like the whole kind of isolated storylines contained within itself. I think contained within it's like self-containing, right? Like, oh, this is within a city, or no, sorry, a suburban town. I think part 5 takes place somewhere else, and 6 takes place in a certain facility for the most part. So I don't know if it expands beyond that, but having it isolated, at least, listen, there's no trend because there's only one part where it's self-isolating, but it's good. It's great. And if they continue that trend, even better. If they do the same kind of quality of writing, which I think they will, it's great. I really have very little bad things to say about the second half of part 4, or part 4 in general.
Yeah, one of my main gripes was the way that Kira died, where an ambulance just backs into him and kills him. That's like some real Looney Tunes shit. But at the end of that, you didn't get a pretty good resolution for the ghost girl in the alley.
Yeah. I think that was pretty touching. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna like cry and talk about how like sob my eyes out Fruits Basket or Violet Evergarden was, but it was a nice moment.
Yeah, it's like seeing like Kira doesn't just get his comeuppance once but twice. It was like. I loved him as a villain, but like goddamn, like when he gets murked that way too, which is like maybe an ambulance killing wasn't that great, but then Ghost Girl shows up, it's like now that's the way to die.
Yeah, that was like very, very well done. Look, the whole like backup the ambulance is so ironic, and I think Rohan Kishibe kind of said, like, hey, it was the best possible scenario because if he didn't die, we have to figure it out. He would also cause more trouble. I think he has a little bit of, like, a couple of liners to Jotaro, and I thought that his explanation was very legit.
Yeah. I think that pretty much sums up your thoughts and your general review of Diamond's Unbreakable, right? 9 out of 10. Great story.
My thoughts
setting.
on it is not going to change, and it's not going to break.
Right. So, now that you ended with talking about Rohan Kishibe, let's have a little, discussion about how you thought about watching the 4 episodes of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe, which is interesting because the episodes came out like over the course of like a year or two.
How about we just do a couple of seconds of silence and then go into it? How about that?
So 5 seconds now.
So you should say Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan, and I should say Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe.
No, I also say Rohan Kishibe.
Okay,
honestly,
fuck it. Okay, so go on, because as I was compiling the dockets, like kind of like the copy paste wiki stuff, I kind of not encountered issues, but trying to connect how it Rohan Kishibe, Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe came about. Like it was really confusing to me.
Because what's interesting is the fact that like I think like the 4 episodes for that OVA came out over 2019, but not like all in one go.
So were they all licensed by Netflix?
I believe so.
So it wasn't made. It wasn't made before, and then they got the license.
I think like 2 episodes had already been made, and then they got the license. I don't know. I don't remember the order, but it definitely like there was definitely some like negotiation going on.
And to your memory, they are making more, right?
Because currently the spin-off manga is still
ongoing.
The latest one came out last year. I think there's like 10 or 11 volumes for it.
Yeah, and I think it's also out on like by Viz Media because it's obviously done by Viz Media. So yeah, I think the English volumes are out, like 2 of them or something. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry. Explain. Sorry, I cut you off. So
yeah. So you watch the 4, and I think it's like you can say they're like side stories. You can say they're kind of like a little bit more filler or whatnot.
I think vignettes is
Yeah.
sort of like the way we would kind of at least how I would translate the format of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe.
Are there any like specific episodes of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe you want to go into, or do you want to sort of like go over them as a whole?
So first thing I would say is the OP is very lackluster. It is done by the same composer for all of Jojo. Hold on, let me try to find it.
I'll pull it up. You can keep talking.
Yugo Kano, who did the composer for all of the JoJos up to part 6. So for all intents and purposes, he's the JoJo composer. The OP, though, very weak. It's very Harry Potter-esque. The ED is a lot better, but the English, as we say, is not great either. And I'm not talking like SIM, like very good English. I'm talking like it kind of just doesn't vibe with me. But the 4 episodes, the first thing I want to ask you, Will, is the art style and character designs have definitely shifted. It didn't look like Diamond's Unbreakable. Like the lines are much thicker and much sharper, and the look of the characters are already very different. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I would say, to my knowledge, because I didn't Google this on purpose, but just offhand, it looks a lot more like Part 5, Golden Wind type of production. By David Productions, of course.
Yeah,
but,
it did come out around that time.
Yeah, and I think timeline-wise, it does check out. But I didn't really look into it because I didn't want to necessarily get spoiled.
For sure, thematically, it fits into Diamond's Unbreakable. But I think because 2019 was also the year that Golden Wind had premiered, and then Rohan Kishibe, the OVA, came out shortly afterwards. I guess, yeah, maybe the style. It's kind of like hard to just go to like the production studio and be like, oh, you guys remember how you animated Diamond's Unbreakable? Yeah, do that for Rohan Kishibe as well. So it's like it's not like we're asking for consistency. It's like it's noticeable that the style is a little bit different between the OVA and the main series, which is Part 4.
When is Part 4 released?
I think 2019, right?
Okay, so around the same time that Thus Spoke.
Yeah, Thus Spoke came out shortly afterwards. At least like those episodes that came out that year came out shortly after Golden Wind.
One of the things that I really like. Okay, so let me backtrack slightly. I gave Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe a 7.
Fair.
Why? First of all, the vignettes actually I quite dig, minus one of them. Because the vibe that they're going for actually is very much a horror story, paranormal-esque.
It's almost like Twilight
Zone, Tales from the Crypt, right? And of course, as one-shots, that makes sense. It focuses on one character. There are no stands other than Rohan Kishibe's stand, Heaven's Door, which, by the fucking way, is the most broken, I would say even more broken than Dio's power in some ways, right?
Zawelda.
Yeah, Heaven's Door is crazy overpowered.
I'm writing a manga about superpowers. What should I make the most OP superpower? How about writing manga?
And have it basically be myself.
Yeah.
Which is just oozing Araki's aura.
His
right?
ego, man. His ego must be off the fucking chain.
But, okay, so I really like the paranormal parts of Thus Spoke because it's very different than your standard, like, stand battles, right? And it is very akin to, let's huddle around the campfire place at night and tell each other ghost stories. Except in Thus Spoke, it is, I'm at a cafe, and I just might as well tell you this story that is kind of weird. I thought the whole theme of the 4 episodes, the vignettes, are very cool because it talks about like sin and obsession, right? I think the first episode is about greed and kind of class struggle in a way. Like, or looking down on people that are down on their luck and then achieving greatness off of someone's back and then kind of getting their comeuppance. Karma in many ways. I thought the first story was really good. I thought the second story in regarding...
It's the murder in the house.
I thought that was pretty cool too. It's very Macbeth-esque. You know, as I told you, and it is kind of the end of that story is such Tales in the Crypt Twilight Zone. Like, okay, the incident of that murder got resolved in a way. There are certain ramifications at the end that involves a child that has really terrible ramifications if you were to assume that it is the child.
Yeah.
I don't really want to say that word, not because of spoilers, but because I just don't really want to go in that direction. But the whole like, oh, I solved this situation, but every day I have to do this one thing is such a horror story kind of ending that I just love to bits. I also like the last story a lot.
Regarding obsession and perfection, right?
About the male model running on the treadmill, because that is more on not only the paranormal, but also the things that the absurdity of Jojo.
And also the fact that Rohan Kishibe actually shows up, right?
Of course, but it is the other three stories are more you don't even have to necessarily incorporate Rohan Kishibe, and you can tell that kind of story and have it still have the same effect. But the last story, you need to have Jojo, you need to have Rohan Kishibe in it in order for it to make sense. Oh, the fact that like he throws the dumbbell, runs backwards, is so weird. That is the stuff that you expect out of Jojo.
It's definitely one of the more like unique stand battles, or just battles in Jojo.
I'm just gonna have those bouldering, like not rocks, but like those bouldering like handles.
Yeah.
All the way down a fucking building. Like that's just Jojo as fuck. Okay. Now, why did I isolate the third story?
The popcorn one, right?
No, that's the first one.
Oh,
the third one is about manners.
That's the one.
And etiquette. I thought that was shit.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, the fact that I didn't remember it. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, probably the one of the more like forgettable episodes of Rohan Kishibe.
It's just unfortunate because, in my opinion, the others were bangers.
So that's the thing, though, right? Because you gave it a 7 in the end. Is it because of that one episode dragging the score down, or do you just like? Is it just the fact that it's all good, but like in the pantheon of JoJo, where does this really fit? And that's where it's
more
like
latter than the former,
right.
As in less that the third vignette sucked, as much as you could have easily taken Rohan Kishibe out, maybe right away around it. And really not have... I mean, basically, when we said Tales from the Crypt Twilight Zone, it is very much you could envision that those would be like those stories.
Yep.
So it is nice that they have that paranormal, kind of one-shots that are very horrific in nature compared to the other things that we know of JoJo, which is usually of the bizarre variety. But the fact that it's just is not JoJo. It does involve Rohan Kishibe and Heaven's Door.
It's like, rather than attaching the JoJo title to it, it's just called Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe. And maybe if we have a look at
it's
how
like
the
a
manga,
lesser Junji Ito kind of vignette story,
which is not an insult.
It's not an insult, but it is just not Araki. It's not JoJo. And it was just okay.
We may need to read the manga to see, right? The manga at the moment is holding a 7.80 for its Mal Raw score. The anime adaptation, which is the 4 episodes we talked about, is a 7.62. Which is fair.
Yeah, I would say David Productions still did a very good job, just like how you said about King's Ranking, Treasure Chest of Courage. Same level of quality. So nothing bad about the quality. It just doesn't fit well into
like if you've watched and read everything that is like the main JoJo line, but not Kishibe, I think that's okay. I think it's like, if you are a diehard fan, then absolutely read and watch it, but it's not a must.
Yeah, it's almost like, hey, if the spinoff is, rather than Rohan Kishibe, a manga artist kind of trying to travel the world to get material for his or her manga, it could have easily done that and not be a JoJo spinoff. but it's still good, just not Jojo good. So it's a 7 out of 10. That's it.
I gave it an 8 just because Jojo. I gave it an extra point, but
I
think
might give more when if they add, I think 4 more or 6 more episodes
Who
incoming.
knows? I mean, there's like 10, 11 volumes now, so there's definitely going to be enough to be able to adapt for more Kishibe episodes if it gets to that point.
I wanted to reincorporate more of the characters that I know and love from Part 4. Yes, I am very biased, but if you are going to make that move of incorporating those characters from the get-go, maybe integrate more. Of course, the manga is already written, so there's nothing I can technically know the answer to that question, but that's how I feel.
So that wraps up your thoughts on Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe, as well as this current chapter of JoJo Part 4 Diamond is Unbreakable.
I literally know nothing about Golden Wind.
Do not look into it. Just
no.
watch it.
I mean, that's our policy, and I really don't want to do that until the moment I press play on Golden Wind.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts because of the fact, like I said, right? Part 4 was the beginning of like the changing themes and environments of the JoJo series. Parts 1, 2, 3, they're very much interconnected. Parts 4, 5, 6, and beyond, that's when it's just like, okay, we're entering new JoJo territory now. So if you got your mind blown by how different Part 4 was, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on Part 5.
I am way more excited to start JoJo Part 5 than I have started any other previous JoJo parts.
This is the part where now it's like you're starting to see like, oh, this is what JoJo's all about.
I mean, since Part 3, I would say so, but now I would think that it is not what I thought at the end of Part 3, and now, as you just said, I know that this might be the format or structure going forward, and I'm just like, fucking let's go. Okay, there is some loose connection between the lineage that ties all the JoJos together, but that's all you need, man. Just keep the bizarreness, you're good.
All right. We are going to now give this a couple seconds of silence because we're now going to be entering the spoiler section of Season 2, Sword Art Online.
Okay, well, they needed to get Darth Maul instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's really what Kirito needed to get. He needed to get not
well,
one.
He couldn't get either because they decided to make the lightsaber green, not red or blue. I don't even remember.
Who has a green lightsaber?
Yoda.
Oh,
but he did. So
fuck.
Spoilers. I'm sorry, but yeah, you guys got Baby Yoda in the Mandalorian. So
okay. So now we're in the spoilers.
Jokes aside, though, right? So Sword Art Online, like for the longest time, is not only one of the most popular anime and light novel series of all time, but at the same time is also one of the most like hotly debated, controversial series
and easy to hate.
Yeah.
So I would argue that halfway through season 2 is when, quote unquote, the anime adaptations of Sword Art Online is at its darkest. It's not until you get a little bit into Alicization did it people started to pay more attention to it.
Yeah.
Progressive, obviously, is a set of movies that are a lot of people have sung high praises, not just the fans of the series.
I think Ordinal Scale was also kind of well received too.
I hated Ordinal Scale. It was one of the few shows that I gave a 5. And that's a little bit biased because the whole Kirito, like, oh, I'm just going to come in and save the day. It is extremely pretty. I will say that. Yeah. Extremely well done, but
just did not vibe at all.
He literally came in the last minute, fucked shit up in like the span of like 5 minutes. So I was like, well, then why did we spend like over an hour to like figure that out?
Well, I guess I'll have to watch it and also give my 2 cents on that then.
It won't be a 5 for you, I'll tell you that. I just was super unhappy with it.
Right. So, Sword Art Online Part 2, as we've already said many times before, not a whole lot of swords in this part, at least in terms of like the Phantom Bullet arc. If that name didn't really give you an idea of what to expect, well, here you go. A lot of bullets, a whole lot of bullets, because now they're not playing Alfheim Online, they're not playing Sword Art Online, they're now playing Gun Gale Online. So instead of it being a MMORPG, it is now an MMOFPS. Well, FPS, third person shooter.
Well, for the players, it's first
Yeah,
person.
that's true. Yeah. So yeah. So there is a mysterious like set of murders or deaths that have been happening in the world of Gun Guild Online, and the government decides to come in, or at least like the cybersecurity team for that server decided, you know what? Why don't we bring in the savior of the last crisis of game player deaths, Kirito, and see if we can sort this shit out.
So right off the bat, a lot of people did not like that premise. I actually thought that premise was pretty solid on paper.
I thought it was long overdue because
Yeah.
of the fact that it's like in the first fucking season they had like 4,000 people die in the world of Sword Art Online, but then now because one person died in this game, it's like a fucking national security problem. You got to get the best people on the job. It's like, what about the 4 people?
Oh, yeah.
What about the 4 key people that died? What about them?
And what about grabbing the one guy that is quote unquote beat the game, that saved like everyone else? You should get that guy as either a consultant or like, as a support, right? So it makes perfect sense, but a lot of people were kind of dumbfounded at the premise.
Basically, like the whole reason why Sword Art Online Season 2 started was because of murky business practices. Because in Sword Art Online 1, there was no security layer put into the game. Therefore, if you died, it wasn't on the company.
And you just died in real life.
You just died in your own shit, right? Like, we didn't make it so that you couldn't be like hacked in the game. We never had that layer to begin with. So, we have no we have no like culpability whatsoever. Whereas in this world, all of a sudden now it's like, hey, you know what? We actually do have a cybersecurity team in play for this. We don't want to get sued. So Kirito, get us out of this mess. That's literally it.
Yeah, so I have nothing wrong with that premise, despite right off the bat a lot of people did. But right away I was like, why did your avatar have to be female? So here, now, is that a problem for me? Absolutely not.
But it's a tired trope.
It's a tired trope, but it was done so lazily. That's my problem.
Because they never actually explained why he looks like a young pretty
problem.
woman. It's just like, I guess I'll use this, and abuse my power of being a young, beautiful, effeminate-looking boy.
It's just so easy to kind of rectify, which is, I played a guy, I want to play a girl. It could have just been that, and I would have, at least me personally, would have accepted that. Because, in World of Warcraft,
I've definitely played female characters.
I think other than my undead warlock in WoW, everyone else was a female character.
Yeah, like, for example, whenever I play Horde, right? I play, like, male Taurens, but I play female Blood Elves.
I mean, of course, for Blood Elves, you gotta go female, so...
Well, I mean, unless I'm a paladin, then I'll decide, you know what, maybe I'll play a male. It doesn't really, I never really put much thought into, like, why I make certain characters male or female.
I mean, personally, I make a conscious decision to always try my best to get a good female avatar. But that's just my personal thing. I don't have necessarily any gender identity issues. It's just a habit that I formed a long time ago,
and it's also a normal thing that happens in like online gaming.
Yeah, I'm not catfishing anyone. When you hear my voice on like Ventrilo,
oh, I remember that.
Yeah, remember those days?
Yes.
Or TeamSpeak 3.
Yes.
I clearly make no qualms that I'm just a dude in a female avatar, and guess what? A lot of people are too, and a lot of people don't catfish or like abuse that fact.
Whereas in Gun Guild Online,
there's
with
no
Kirito,
rhyme or reason.
It's just he is just straight up catfishing people.
Because it happens in the beginning too. I'm just like, what the fuck?
There's no logic or explanation, no reason for it at all,
and it could have been done.
I think that like for sure, like if people were upset about that, you're well within your right. It didn't bother me that much, but it was definitely also just like, this is just lazy
for me. Yeah, it's just lazy, and like, why? It just takes literally less than 10 seconds to explain it away to an acceptable level in my mind.
Yeah. Now, going into Season 2 as well, like when we were talking about, there's going to be a whole lot of swords. not there's gonna be a lot of guns. Immediately I thought, is this the reason why it's rated so low? No, I actually was kind of digging the world of Gun Gale Online.
I quite liked it, and I think that a lot of people liked it, and they have a spin-off of Gun Gale Online.
Yep, Sword Art Online alternative Gun Gale Online.
The pink P90 girl.
Yeah,
which we will cover for our Gotta Watch Them All.
Yeah, I think that for the next episode, actually, for GWEA 8, I believe. But yeah, I think that the world of Gun Gale Online is fine. The gameplay in terms of like them actually like not just running and gunning, but being a lot more strategic in terms of how they go about doing these gun battles is cool. I thought that the name of the tournament was also really lazy.
B.O.B.
Bullet of Bullets. So I was like, okay, fine.
I thought
it's like if you do like like
you bob it.
If you do like Wimbledon or the Roland Garros, it's like, oh, instead of that, we're gonna call it the tennis players of tennis players.
Yeah, it's just so lazy, but fine, right? I thought the strategy was not Arc Knights or Doll's Front Line level of craziness or intricacy, especially Arc Knight. I know it's more layered in strategy, the anime, I mean. But sure, I guess Gun Gale Online did put some effort in.
What I think as well that this arc, all right, Phantom Bullet actually did to improve my impression of Sword Art Online was the actual introduction of characters dealing with mental and emotional trauma.
So I don't remember too much about that.
So Shion, right?
Shion. She had a fear of guns.
Yeah, because of the fact that when she was younger, there was an incident at the post office. Someone was about to get murdered. She managed to get the murderer's gun, and then she ends up being the one to waste him.
Oh, also, if you know that your classmate or friend has an aversion to guns and has PTSD from it, don't fucking point your finger gun at her.
Yeah, what
the fuck are you doing?
That was really fucked up. But I think that's also why like it made this particular arc of Sword Art Online like all the more enjoyable to watch because it was like
it's poignant, right?
Because you never really see much struggle in season 1 outside of I'm stuck in a game, I haven't seen my family in forever.
You get glimpses, right? Just how the one guy who drank poison but then wouldn't receive the help. You get that one girl who loses out to Asuna and then just kills herself. Like they just touch upon it in terms of suicide, and then obviously it's a touchy subject, but like they just touch upon it like briefly and then don't mention it.
Whereas like in this one, it's like there are characters that actually talk about the process of contemplating suicide.
Like this is the central focus of the Shion character, right?
Kirito actually then breaks down like midway of that arc where he's just like, shit, actually, the 2 players that I killed in the game of Sword Art Online, I actually killed them in real life as well. And then actually having that breakdown, the realization that he's got blood in his hands, even though what he was doing,
overdue, right?
Even though what he was doing in the game was the right thing. I think like that was actually a very refreshing thing. I think it was like a very grown-up decision for the anime, at least for the story of Sword Art Online.
Yeah, because one of our criticisms of Sword Art Online Season 1 was it's fine that you touch upon these, albeit sensitive, but very, talked about subjects to a certain degree.
Taboo to an extent.
Taboo, right? But then when you just touch upon it ever so slightly in such a lazy fashion and then just pretend it didn't exist, to me, it's like worse than not mentioning it, right?
It's like, suicide is bad. Don't kill yourself. Oh, okay, cool. All right, next episode.
You're fucking depressed? Have a happy, just smile.
Just smile, dude. Just be happy.
Just be happy. What the fuck? Oh, you have work to do? Just finish it. Just do it. Yes, you're right, but you're also not getting the point, right?
Yeah, you're not helping anybody by glossing over this shit.
So exploring it is great, right?
Yeah. I think that Shinon, the character itself, like you said as well, I think like actually I would say she is a central character in this arc. I really like her a lot.
She's a pivotal character.
Both like her as her avatar as well as her IRL. Like it basically introduces the vulnerabilities and the frailties of being so absorbed in this game as an escape that when you go back to the real world, you then still realize actually all my real world problems are still with me and I haven't really fixed anything. That's why I lock myself into this game to escape everything perpetually.
Okay. So these types of subjects are very heavy, right, to talk about. So there is no other way to like ease into anything else.
You can't talk about this shit lightly and be like, Yeah, so Suhead's bad. By the way, the gunfights are super cool.
So I am just going to take that club and swing it in the other direction. So I am not an ass guy, Will, but Shion has a fat ass.
So that was the other thing as well too.
When the gun recoil happens, guess where they focus on?
Well, there's a lot of focus of the lower half of every time. That was actually like something that kind of bothered me. Not kind of, actually very much bothered me a lot of. Like, dude, I have no problem in terms of fan service.
I have no problems with Ooyy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it felt like in this, it just felt forced. And like the thing as well, it's like there is no like love triangle. There's
Will,
no,
did you like High School of the Dead, that sniper scene with the recoil?
Yeah, of course.
The Matrix boob.
But that was the point of watching High School of the Dead.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? But we're not against that, right? But in Sword Art Online 2, as you were saying.
Yeah, it's like, sorry about the depression, but you got a nice ass. It's like why are we endorsing that?
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. So I
will admit though she does have a nice ass, but
yeah, she has a nice ass, but
like that's come on.
How about after you have that serious discussion, maybe during a hot and heated battle, then you do that.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not always have ass shots all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think that like there was another thing as well at the ending of all of this, how she gets over her fear of guns.
Oh yeah. Would you like to enlighten
it's
everyone about this?
It's great. She just basically manages to win the Battle of Bullets because she decides to martyr herself along with along with Kirito.
So about that, first of all, I thought that elimination strategy.
Lazy. I thought it was lazy.
Oh, you thought it was lazy?
Because the whole point in them having this fucking discussion in the first place was that they were always going to fight each other no matter what. And I thought that, you know what? It would have actually been more poetic for them to actually battle it out at the final, like the final two. I thought that would have been a better way. And then like whoever wins would just be like, this is the way it's supposed to be. Then they log out, and then the real war shit happens again. Right? That's literally the only thing I would change. But another thing as well, it's like when she gets over her fear of guns, her bully shows up with like a BB gun, like an air rifle, an air gun, and then like doesn't realize that you have to take the safety off and all that. It's like, here, let me show you how to shoot this gun. And then she turns, and there is a conveniently placed empty can on top of a bucket right to her left, which she points over, shoots it, and says, that's how you shoot a gun.
Because what you didn't see was the cast and crew of Sword Art Online Season 2 in the anime. While they were off camera, they were putting the can there so then they can pan to it, right? That's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the martyrdom thing was a good loophole, but it was a really dumb way to end everything, especially the context behind it.
Yeah.
What I would recommend, actually, was they play Russian roulette.
That's fucked up. But I think also another way that they could have also ended too.
Because if hear me out, okay? This Russian roulette thing,
but
would have her shoot Kirito, which then means in a very messed up way, you're dealing with your fears head on. Now, to be fair, I don't really have a lot of phobias. I actually might be very insensitive about it. But sometimes I feel that I know that in the realm of psychology, desensitization is a gradual way of overcoming your fears. If you have a fear of snake, maybe you buy a plushie, right?
Don't do that, because I have a fear of needles, and the last thing I want to do is to slowly inject myself to the point where I'm actually numb from being scared of needles.
Well,
also I have a fear of spiders.
Well, Will, guess what? We are going to have you play Dead Space 2 VR.
I actually really don't like Dead Space, just because of the fact there's a lot of spider-looking monsters and a lot of needles in that game. So, Dead Space is a no-go for me. But back onto Sword Art Online.
But I thought the desensitization thing, the gradual introduction, right? So she's in the game, she's using guns. She clearly, in the game at least, have no problems handling guns.
And then when she goes back to the real world, she's like, okay, let me try this again. And she pulls out her desk, and the cover of her desk, pulls out like another replica gun, and then like at the time when she wasn't over her fear, she starts breaking down, having an episodic anxiety attack, and then later on afterwards, when she finally is able to deal with it, it was nice. It was wholesome that she was able to eventually get over her fear.
But I do think that Russian roulette idea is not a bad one. Maybe it's not a good one.
I just think that I think that the martyrdom thing could have been done a little bit better. The other gripe,
they're not playing Call of Duty.
Yeah, the other gripe I do have with this as well is that they put so much focus into building up all these characters from season 1 that it just carried on from like the elf arc of part 1, where
isn't it Laughing Coffin or
the Laughing Coffin? Yeah,
yeah.
But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is that literally all the other characters, like Leafa, like Asuna,
I'm sorry,
like
who?
Klein, exactly. None of them fucking matter at all.
Wait, who is this Asuna character that is supposed to be
like OP as fuck,
and
right?
also like his girlfriend? Okay, every time
she's just a friend.
Yeah,
that's it. She's just a friend.
There are moments where like he gets out of the game, which by the way is kind of odd at that time because I'm so used to them being stuck in the game in season 1. But okay, they like chat and catch up. But it's just like so weird.
But then they spend like half of that arc just sitting in a fucking chat room on Alpha Online and watching this game where literally Asuna is watching herself get cucked. Like what the fuck's going on? Like she is so powerless and weak. All the characters get no screen time whatsoever. Like that was like one of the biggest issues that I had with this particular arc. Other than that, I think it was a fine thing. I actually liked the story a lot.
Fine thing.
Yeah, it was a fine thing. I liked the story a lot. You know, like I think that like at least the two only characters that are of note, Kirito and Shinon, were done very well. The fact that they showed their vulnerabilities and their weaknesses, but also like were able to comfort each other to the point where they can go beyond that boundary and like and actually improve.
So, Will, would you agree that the latter half of season 1 of Sword Art Online is extremely forgettable?
I don't even remember what happened.
But the first half is where the good shit is, right? Would you say that the first half of season 2 is better than the first half of season 1?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say so. I mean, like, that's why, like, in my mind, you're asking about the score breakdowns, I would have given the Phantom Bullet arc an 8.
Yeah, I think that's accurate in terms of how I would feel as well.
I would have given it an 8. So I think that
production is also very well done. The voice acting is what you expect.
It's goofy to see that lightsaber fucking like deflecting bullet scene.
It looks pretty dumb.
It looks sick,
but it looks sick.
It looks sick, right?
Like, does it make sense in the lore of it? No, but turn your brain off at that point, right? And just enjoy the awesome animation quality in front of you, right? So I get it though. I get it.
Now this is where my view of SAO Part 2, or Season 2, goes a lot more downhill. Because
and this is where I actually did not watch any of it because I literally stopped once they martyrdomed and kind of had that resolution. And I was just like, all right, I'm good.
So in this sense then, like, do you care for spoilers?
Fuck no.
Okay, well, here you go then. So Part 2, where they focus on the Caliber arc. Caliber arc is a side story that takes place during, I think, volumes 7 and 8 or 5 or 6 and 7. I forgot.
It's 5 to 8 for all of it.
Yeah. So I think volume 7 was Caliber, and then volume 8 was Motors Rosario. So Caliber focuses like on the other characters where everyone is like
in GGO.
No, they're back in Alpha Online, back in the little fairy flying world.
Okay, can you explain to me? So Elf Online is quote-unquote safe, right? In season 1.
Yeah.
So you can log in and out, right?
Yeah.
So it's just logging out of WoW and going into, like, I don't know, what's another well-known MMO at that time?
Not RuneScape. Guild Wars?
Sure.
Yeah. It's like that. Because you still wear those little headsets. The Anosphere.
That needle gear, nerve gear.
Yeah. So they bring back all the other characters. They bring back like Leafa. They bring back.
Where's Ooyy?
Who's Ooyy?
The fairy. The AI.
Oh yeah, she's there.
She's there.
She's there.
Still the fairy.
Yeah.
Where is she in Gungale?
Not there.
Oh, she can't go to Gungale.
No, because she's stuck in a different server. Right. Oh, dude, by the way, before I even get onto it, so there's a part,
pay $35 for.
There's a part in the end of Phantom Bullet where Kirito's in the hospital, right? And they're doing the whole BOB thing, right? And then Asuna somehow gets to the hospital and checks on them. And then she gets a call from Ooyy, the little fairy. It's like, "Oh, I've managed to get a stream ready. Just check the TV in the hospital." I'm like, who the fuck is running the security at the fucking hospital? How are you able to easily hack this so that like a game server can start uploading game streams on like the internal systems of the hospital? What the fuck?
Are you questioning our techno overlord Skynet? Or we version of Skynet?
Yeah, I should probably hold my tongue. Yeah,
you should probably hold your tongue because, listen.
Right, well, I'll stop talking shit about the hospital and I'll talk shit about Caliber. So all the female characters are there. The whole harem is back together, right? And literally every 5 minutes is literally just, Kirito spending time with one girl and all the other girls going pouty face. And then he goes over to another girl and then the other girls go pouty face.
Oh, so it's a JRPG, but then you choose who to date, right?
And guess what? Everybody's been calling it for so long. Give Klein more screen time.
Yo, listen, Klein is the best buddy, right?
Yeah. He's the samurai guy.
Right. The red armor samurai guy. Dude is just chilled out vibes. He's just a good friend.
So here's the good thing. He finally does get his arc. He gets his screen time. The bad thing is
it's shit.
They Looney Tune the fuck out of him.
The fuck?
They literally have him falling downstairs, literally falling for traps. There's an elf girl that's stuck in a prison, and like she's basically like she's an NPC, right? And everyone's like, that's a trap.
Like damsel in distress type thing.
Yeah, please save me. Is like, well, she's in the middle of a dungeon with like treasure chests everywhere. This is clearly a trap. And he's like, wait, no. I can't leave her alone.
I'm a gentleman.
No. Even cringier. I have to live by the Bushido way. And he runs back to save her. And then it turns out that she actually isn't an elf girl. What she was actually a hidden god waiting for a certain hammer to reach her hand before she transforms into Thor and fights another Nordic god because he tricked him. And yeah, it is the worst thing I'd seen. The whole point of it was that
you're making shit up, right? Will,
the whole point of what this whole story started off was
this isn't real, right?
It's called Caliber because Kirito wants to go get Excalibur the sword.
Oh, I was about to say, isn't it because the side stories are of such low caliber?
Unfortunately, it's spelled with a U, not an E. So it is Excalibur story. Guess what? He gets his sword.
I wish it was the past.
But then he's too weak to get it. Guess who helps him, though?
Arthur.
No.
Saber.
No sword bearer, but an archer. Guess who would be the archer in Alpha Online? Shinon decides that Gun Gale Online is no fun anymore because she got over her fear of guns. So she transfers her account over to Alpha Online and becomes a ranger. She is now the archer of the group. Guess what, though? Everybody has their own secret powers. They have like those explosion, blah, 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 and they have like some superpower name. All she does is pull the bow, release. Pull the bow, release.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's what archers do, though.
The thing is, though, it's like just like what happened with Asuna from part 1 of Sword Art Online Season 1 to part 2. They dumb Shinon down so fucking much that she is like vanilla as fuck. It is so sad to see such a power drop. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, this is a villain who's super powerful, but once he joins the party, he's super weak and friendly. That's what Shinon is now. And she's also part of the harem now. She's part of the harem.
I mean, she was always going to be. Yeah. So, oh my god.
Yeah.
This is actually like legitimately hurting my brain.
It is so
like I'm getting like a
However,
like a mini headache.
I feel like if that's her thing, then sure you can.
What about the blacksmith girl?
Oh, she's there. Yeah, the weird little pink-haired back.
Oh, okay.
Girl.
So
yeah.
she's just there,
but she's also very pouty.
Which is just
the lolly's back as well.
Which one's the lolly?
I don't know how to describe her other than she's short in the lolly. That's literally it.
Fair. I mean that's exactly what you would expect.
Very forgettable because they don't give her enough screen time in this.
What about bartender boy?
Oh, he's too busy working.
Okay, that's real. That's unfortunate for the anime, but that's legit.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't fault.
We also find out about his life. He met his wife on Alpha Online.
Okay.
No. He met his wife whilst gaming, and
Uh-huh.
Both of them wanted to actually play Sword Online together, but they were only able to get one invitation. So he took it himself. And he was like, I'm so glad I took the invitation instead of my wife.
That's kind of legit though.
That was heroic as shit.
That's super legit. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You wouldn't
That
know
was
sort
literally the only good thing that happened in that arc.
I mean, you wouldn't know that Sword Art Online was going to be this pitfall of a trap, but fine. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And is the wife?
No, she doesn't show up at all. She's just mentioned in passing. That's it.
Okay, so for all we know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's fine. I think she never played Sword Art Online, but she could be somewhere on Alpha Online. Who knows? I haven't seen Bartender Boy on Alpha Online yet, but don't you could skip all 5 of those episodes.
it's only 5 episodes.
I think it might only be 4. I think it's 4 episodes.
So 20 of the 24 episodes are dedicated to Gun Gale Online, right?
No, I think 16.
Then what? Isn't there like 25 episodes?
Yes.
Or 24?
I think it's 25 episodes. So then that means like 16 is that, 4 is that, and then 5 episodes is reserved for Rosario's mother.
I see. Yeah. Okay. I see. So this is like the checkpoint, the pit stop before that Mother Rosario or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So
what is it called?
Mother's Rosario. Yeah, that's the final side story.
Okay.
Yep. So
also a side story. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I will end this one by saying that this was a very pitiful side story. Absolutely do not watch it.
Out of 10?
I gave it a 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then brings us to Mother's Rosario, which is another side story focusing this time on Asuna. Asuna finally gets the screen time.
Okay. I'm back on board slightly.
Yeah. Turns out she's very good at the game of Alpha Online. So good that she has multiple avatars. She has she has a tank and she also has a healer.
Pretty dope
Pretty
far,
dope, right?
Yeah.
She just plays the game really well until she finds that there's actually another swordsmith that is really damn good.
Swordsmith or a sword wielder?
Sword wielder.
Okay.
Yeah, sword wielder.
Fair.
So good, in fact, that essentially what she does is she just does duels in the town center.
That's still really dope, though.
Yeah, she has like a 300 win streak.
What's her name?
Yuko, or Yuno.
Oh God.
I think. Do you know about that?
Wait a second. Keep talking as I double check something.
Yuki.
Keep talking as I double check something real quick.
Yep. So she decides, you know what? Like, I'm the best sword fighter in this game. I'm going to challenge them. And she fights and fights and fights. And she actually comes real close. She also almost gets fucked up too. Like, she's close to beating her, but at the same time, so the other sword fighter is also a female player. And it comes down to the death. It's clear that Asuna is getting her ass kicked, but she's holding her own ground and she's able to land a couple hits. And to the point where Yuki is about to land the final blow and then stops and says, "All right, that's it. I had fun. You're good. I like your style. Want to join my guild?" And basically, she had been doing this because she was just trying to find who the best fighters were in this Alpha Online. She then gets introduced to the rest of her guild.
Isn't Asuna called Yuki?
Yes.
So it's Yuki versus Yuki.
Asuna versus Yuki, as in Asuna is her final whatever. No, but Yuki, yes, the character is also called Yuki.
Okay.
Yep. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
So then, they go on a couple of fights, they go on a couple of raids and stuff, and she gets to know more about Yuki's guild, and they're all very sweet and very welcoming. And then one day, she decides, what? Why don't we meet up in real life sometime? Maybe someday. I don't know. And then she just mysteriously logs off. Okay, what's going on? She hasn't been on the game for a while. Turns out that Yuki has a serious health condition, and she's actually been logged onto the game pretty much 24/7. It turns out that when she was younger, she was born prematurely. She needed a blood transfusion, but the blood that she got was tainted.
Okay.
With autoimmune deficiency syndrome.
Okay.
Yep. She has AIDS.
Okay.
Full-blown AIDS.
Okay. I mean, okay, that rarely happens in blood transfusions, but it is a very real possibility.
The fact that it's rare, right?
Like it's
it's
medically possible, and it has happened. I think historically speaking, yes. So it's an extremely unfortunate thing to happen upon anyone. We don't wish upon that, but it is a real thing.
Yeah. So then the rest of the story goes in that Yuki's like, no, like just don't get emotionally attached to me. Don't come near me and all that. Like I'm just trying to have fun. Like and then but. Of course, Asuna, not only being super powerful, but also being incredibly caring, then decides, you know what, like, I want to know more about you. She goes to the hospital because she learns from the guild members about a special, like, sort of like technology that's used to preserve her life. And then it turns out that this special technology is actually tied to nerve gear. So it was all developed by the guy who created Sword Art Online in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So then she meets her, and then she meets her online avatar. Talks to her in game. What's also really cool as well is that Kirito is now studying mechatronics at school. So he builds like a server relay. He puts a little camera on Asuna's shoulder so that she can bring Yuki around to go to class and all that because she always wanted to go to school.
That's actually legit dope, though.
Yeah, it's really cool. But of course, all of a sudden one day, the doctor that she reached out to, who also plays, by the way,
sure,
messages her immediately.
It's a popular game, right?
Come to the hospital if you can. Yuki's condition is deteriorating.
She's about to peace out. Like, unfortunate, but yeah.
So then they
say your last goodbyes.
So then
right?
they go. So then it's like, if you want, I have a nerve gear next door that's tied to this room. Maybe you can meet her one more time. And then Yuki's like, I don't want you to see me. I'm like, this is not how I want to end this. And then all of a sudden, like before Asuna even speaks, the rest of her guild shows up and they start talking and they start like sort of like going.
Wait, the guild of whom?
Of Yuki.
Oh no, which Yuki? The dual Yuki, not Asuna.
Yeah.
Okay.
As in Yuki, not Asuna Yuki.
Thank you. Sorry.
So
Yeah,
then and then they start talking, and then it's like he's like, "Don't worry, we're going to be strong." But as soon as they start saying that, they all start bursting into tears because,
as you would,
tied to nerve gear, like whatever happens to your emotions, like the nerve gear reads it, and also then you can't hide your tears, right? Whilst all this is happening, by the way,
wait. So they're walking around in the game and also in real life.
No, they're not, no, they're lying down in the bed or in their chair whilst the game's going on. But it's just that like it can read like your
brain waves or something,
and then
right?
it can detect like emotional changes and whatnot, and then it'll be reflected within the game. So you might not be crying in real life. But
so where are all the guild members in real life?
Throughout Japan or everywhere else.
Okay,
they meet in the game.
Okay, sorry, I got confused. I thought they all showed up.
You ever see like actually, there was several instances of it before, where like in WoW, World of Warcraft, that there were in-game funerals.
Yeah, there's a very infamous one where they added a invitation as a public thing, and they came over and just slayed everyone.
Yeah, that was fucked up. But that's not what happened here. So everybody gathers for her online funeral. They say their goodbyes. Whilst this is all going on, Asuna also has her own issues in that her mother is starting to pick up on the fact that she really likes this game and she does not like this shit. So instead, she comes up to her and says, get off that game. You're transferring school. You're not allowed to see your friends anymore. You're too absorbed into this game that almost took your life out. The fact that you were gone for 2 years and you're still obsessed with it. I don't want you to do this shit.
Somewhat very, no, not somewhat. It's very legitimate. Yeah.
And so then Yuki's dying words were like, if I had the strength to face my problems, you can also find the strength to face your problems the way you talk to me too. And then so then Asuna then builds up the courage to actually talk to her mom and say, why don't you join me on Alpha Online one day? And then she recreates like
hella dope.
So she actually like virtually recreates childhood memories within the game. Her mom sees it, and then afterwards
that's
changes
fucking
her mind.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. I thought that whole arc was really, really nicely done.
Oh, I was expecting like something to be like, and then it all went to shit, like bad quality or something.
It was a very wholesome ending to the story. I'm going to try to wrap it up a little bit quickly because we are getting to that 2:45 mark.
By the way, Yuki, not Yuki Asuna, but the Yuki is voiced by Yuki Aoi.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So
a lot of Yukis,
exactly,
like a hat trick of Yukis.
Okay.
So in the end, I gave that arc an 8 as well. So if you add 8, 8, 5, it averages out to a 7. which I think is a fair score. Look, it's not that far off from a 6.7. It definitely had one of the worst arcs of anime I'd ever seen, but I thought that the Gun Gale Online, like the Phantom Bullet arc, as well as the Murders Rosario side story, were great. I liked them a lot. So, to anyone that's listening to this and has watched Sword Art Online 2, I think you were definitely like fine to continue this journey unless you have already watched Alicization, Ordinal Scale, and Progressive and whatnot.
Unfortunately, a lot of people
Kind of just tap on from here.
Yeah, a lot of, including myself, right? We just was like, we're not going to deal with any of this bullshit anymore, right? And it wasn't until Alicization and then after that Progressive did the whole fervor of Sword Art Online kind of revived in the zeitgeist.
Yeah. So look, I'm happy with what I've watched, except like very disappointed with the Caliber arc. But I'm looking forward to, the next iteration of Gotta Watch Them All, where I will be catching up with more SAO stuff. As is Jason going to be catching up with the next part of JoJo.
So let's just talk about that before we get into housekeeping, which is I will now go into Golden Wind. That is essentially my next journey in Gotta Watch Them All. For Will, it would likely be the offshoot Gun Gale Online alternative, as well as some of the movies.
Like Ordinal Scale, Progressive.
Yeah, I don't know about Progressive, but we will alter it such that you cover the offshoots and those kinds of stuff to wrap up everything so you can go into Alicization full blown.
Cool. Okay. I guess
All
it's
right.
time for some housekeeping.
And that is the end of our episode. You can always reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com, GAPALETTE@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. I've been messing shit up lately with speech impediments. On Twitter using the handle @PaletteGood, capital P and capital G, all one word, or through our GAP Discord server using the invite link in the show description. We have a website, www.goodanimepalette.com. You should check it out, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Inure by Heyson. Our break music is Bottai by Ooyy. And our outro music is I Don't Mind, the instrumental version by Particle House. You can always support the music artists we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or other various music listening platforms. And our royalty-free music was provided by Epidemic Sound. If you're interested, you can always sign up using our referral link in the show description. Terms and conditions apply.
Nicely done. So, I think that you definitely enjoyed watching Diamond's Unbreakable. I kind of enjoyed part 2 of season 2 of Sword Art Online, but I feel like from here on out, this is when like it starts to get good.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a shame as well, because as you mentioned, right, like you said, I think a lot of people just tuned off from Sword Art Online at this point, which explains why like the other parts, like Progressive, Alicization, are nowhere near as popular. The fact that Sword Art Online 2, despite being hated so much, still has like 1.8 million people.
But
I think that's where it's
the
like,
mouse score and the critically the critics score reception has actually been pretty good for Alicization and Progressive, especially Progressive has like over an 8.
It's the people that stuck around, right?
So we need to figure out a way to handle spoilers or non-spoilers, because I do want to tackle Alicization at some point, but we'll figure it out, or we'll bite the bullet when we get there.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that's about it. So stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you all very much for listening to us ramble about JoJo and SAO. We will obviously be covering new series once we're done with the current iterations.
And we will continue to ramble on until then about JoJo and SAO.
So until then, stay tuned. Otherwise, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Do whatever the hell you want. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.